If you had an Apple Watch and it just went to your watch instead of the phone.
I do have an Apple Watch.
Oh.
You see, I told you
But
you
it
got
still rings
you
your
got
phone?
paid too.
What?
First doctors in Acme get paid too much. You can afford an Apple Watch. I can't.
And 2 Harley Davidson motorcycles.
Yeah. I love
No, that's not the bigger news of the whole
poor
thing.
Acme Red Captain.
Okay. We have more news then. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's recording of whatever we call this thing.
That's a nice article, Nick, that you sent.
Yeah.
Are you going to put the YouTube link up, Jeff?
If you go to Twitter, you can find it there. Or you can go...
Follow us on Twitter.
Yeah.
At AVG Crew.
I do.
Or at Airline Pilot Guy.
Although the website is incorrect, or at least it was when I tried to get to it.
Yeah, well, that's something I need to talk about.
Oh.
I had issues trying to log into the back end or the whatever you want to call it of the website, and I've been having trouble with the website for a while. I don't know what's going on there, but I can't. It wouldn't let me sign in, so I couldn't change the APG Live page.
Oh.
And I didn't have time to contact Arash and to see if he could help me with that. So let me see. Let me try to log in one more time. It's just not working very well. It's like right now, I clicked it and it's taking forever to load the page. Okay, I'm not going to deal with it. So sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry for those of you who are watching this that missed something or whatever because I couldn't update that page of the website.
If we put out an app thing,
I put out a push notification and perhaps somebody got it. I didn't again.
I did not.
I did not.
But I did put out APG Crew, Airline Pilot Guy, and Facebook. All those social media sites were notified of the link. Let's see. I guess I should pull up the chat room.
well, I got the tweet.
Okay. Yeah, I got the tweet too. Of course, I sent the tweet, so.
We hope that you got it.
Yeah.
I would hope you'd get that, yeah.
Okay.
These things send off.
Yeah, no push here. I don't know what's going on with the push notification. I don't know what's going on with anything.
Android
Micah.
worked, apparently. I don't know.
Oh, but see, where's Ort? He got one.
Ah.
Strange.
I'm looking at Kakrislan. Well, welcome for your first visit to the famous live chat. I'm trying to work out how on earth to pronounce that handle you have, old chap.
Which one are you looking at?
CCACRISLAN.
Is it just Chris?
Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
Chris. CRIS. Well, what's the double CA? CCA? CCA. Is that an airline?
I don't know.
CCA
Maybe he's a something captain. I don't know.
Could be.
Canadian Captain Chris.
Crap
Chrislin.
captain. Crap captain.
Crap Captain. That's got to be it.
Yeah.
He's
You
not
guys are
saying anything.
So complimentary.
No. He said
Chris
hello.
is okay. Well, explain what the other stuff is, Chris. What is that?
Yeah, what's the CCA and
Did
the
you just
LAN?
like accidentally hit some keys on your keyboard?
Christian.
Gachego Alvarez?
That's a different language to mine.
Okay, we'll just call you Chris.
Casida Alvarez. Christian Casida Alvarez.
Caicedo Alvarez.
Hi, Tanya. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Hello, hello. We're having so much fun just reading things in the chat.
Yeah, we are.
That's all the show is actually going to be. We're just going to read your live chat. Think of it like poetry.
I can't get into it. Sure.
Right, yeah. Chris used to work for LAN. That's why he's added LAN at the end.
Makes sense.
Well, now we've decoded it. I can work with that now.
Oh, I wonder if he knew our favorite Miami Rick land person.
Who? Sorry?
Miami Rick worked for land before he
used to work for us too, we think.
Did he? Well,
Once
that
upon
was
a time.
before my time, was it?
He did his initial flight training with the famous Miami Rick. There you go.
Oh, there you go. You do the you know the infamous
Yeah, famous,
Miami Rick.
infamous.
Okay, great. So let me make sure I have this recording.
Infamy. They've all got it in for me.
I do not have this recording. Okay, so I'm going to hit record.
Oh, that's a good
Oh,
point.
good. Yeah.
Just
yeah,
clap it.
little reminder there. Here's a little bell to remind you.
Okay. All right. I'm
Recorder's
recording.
on.
Recorder's on. And I have my clapper ready. I have the clap.
So sorry.
Hold on, I'm going to set mine back up. So
Okay.
when you have microphone.
You know, I wish I could remember to remind you guys of that when we first start the hangout before we hit the broadcast. I never think of it until now.
Oh, that's right.
To start recording?
Or just to get the audio hijack thing ready to go.
Oh, I thought of it, and then we started doing other
I'm ready.
things, and I
Yeah, you were
got
too busy
sidetracked.
playing with your
and emojis.
emojis.
Hi, Dr. Dan. Brian. Hello, Brian. David Abbey.
I'm recording.
Okay.
I
What
think
about
we
the
could
rest?
shorten Dave Abbey to Dabby. That would work for me.
So are we all ready to do clappered or clap?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ready?
3, 2, 1, clap. All right. That'll be good enough.
Good job.
And
Good job, Virgin.
what?
That's what the Americans say to us whenever we manage to achieve one of their aims. Oh, good job, Virgin.
Is it said sarcastically?
I think so.
I don't know. She's
Good
very
job,
hard to tell.
Virgin. Good job.
Yes.
Yeah, I ignore him since I work
wait.
for Acme Ring.
Good job.
Yes.
Slow clap.
Never seen it done better. Okay. Sound check. All right. And 309. Here we go. Oh, wait a minute.
Just
There's
kidding.
always one more thing.
Yeah, just getting ready. Hang on.
Are you doing advertisements for the
Almost
Weather
there.
Channel today?
Yes. If you're watching the video, you can watch the Weather Channel behind me. I guess I could turn it off if it's too distracting.
No, it's not distracting at all. It's actually
You'd rather watch that than me.
no. I'm getting my weather forecast. Move
Okay.
out of the way. I got to figure out what it's
Oh,
doing
sorry.
this weekend.
Just waiting for the UK to come around.
Man,
Yeah.
Dr.
Wait a
Dan,
while.
you're
We do that
absolutely
like
right. It will
once a
be
year.
epic. Epic.
Okay.
I have to. I can't type on my chat board for some reason. So
Why not?
I open up a separate window, and my option to type in there down there at the bottom isn't there. I don't know what's going on.
it's so weird.
This
That is strange.
it is strange. I can scroll
You've had
down.
that issue before, I think.
Yeah, but I was able to always click on it and open up a separate window and be able to still
Oh.
be able to chat. Now it's not doing it at all. No, I don't know. I'm logged in. It's weird. It just
Very
shows me the
strange.
chat window. No clue.
Super Bowl fly-in. I don't know. Making stuff up. Okay. Excuse me. Here we go. Wait, let me just double check one more time to make sure it's recording. And it is. Okay. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 309.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. 13.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 2209 in the Hyatt Regency Recording Studios, Miami, Florida. In today's episode, emotional support peacocks, Super Bowl fly-in, more news, your feedback, and the latest Plain Tales installment, Fighting High Demons. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 309 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast. We talk about aviation news and answer a lot of your questions and feedback. And joining me today to help me do that from our beautiful lakeside estate in South Carolina, she's a doctor, skydiver, a marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument rated pilot, Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff. Good to see you again. Glad to be back for episode 309 and looking forward to a great show with you and the rest of the crew.
Outstanding. We're looking forward to it as well. And also joining us from just outside of London somewhere in his sprawling country estate, it's a professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, current captain for an international airline based in London, Captain Nick Anderson.
Captain Jeff, be the one-eyed pilot here.
Excuse me, did I miss something? Is it talk like a pirate day?
Well, I thought if I only had one eye, I ought to speak like a pirate.
I think that we're probably going to hear something about whatever he's referring to as soon as we introduce our last contestant on the Airline Pilot Guy Show. Last but certainly not least. From a stately southern mansion in Smyrna, Georgia, barbecue master, bourbon connoisseur, motorcycle riding pilot for a major U.S. legacy carrier, Captain Dana Colton.
Good afternoon. Great to be back yet. Another fantastic episode. Not to get you too excited, but we're going to have another fun day. So looking forward to it. Great to see everybody back. Dr. Steph, Captain Nick, and Captain Jeff. Thank you.
Oh, come on. Get us excited, Dana.
About what? There's nothing to be excited about. Yeah. I have my voice back, at least mostly.
That's good. Yeah, it's not 100%, but it's definitely
really
better than
there.
last time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm so excited to be with my friends again, all of you there on the panel, and also everybody watching and listening. It's always a highlight of my week to record the show. If you're new to the show, our apologies. Again, we'll say that right up front. And what we do here is, as I mentioned at the beginning, is we talk about aviation news and answer a bunch of your feedback. And we try to entertain you as well. And we always strive for the accuracy rate of at least 50%. And I think we're
51%.
51%.
I mean, we want to be more accurate than inaccurate.
Is that like a new goal for 2018?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
New Year's resolutions for a month.
We used to be
8
content
hours
with
speaking.
49. I don't know why that should have changed. I mean, I've got to work so much harder now.
Well,
Yeah.
as
I
we'd like to
actually have
say,
something correct.
we're at the APG, we're upping our standards, up yours. All right. That's what we say. Let's see. Dana, you said you had some exciting news. So I can't wait. Please tell us. Tell us, please.
It's really not that exciting.
Oh, okay. Then
I got you all hyped up for nothing. Yeah. Yesterday, at the end of the 2-day trip, 3-day trip. Sorry, only flew 2 of the 3 days. First off, I have to apologize to main man Micah. I was in Portland, but because I was still under the weather, I did not want to go out and be social. I actually spent the entire day that I was there resting my voice, and thus it has come. No, I did not drink one drink. I haven't had a drink since the playoff game, and the next drink I'll have is on Super Bowl Sunday, and after that, it'll be a while. I'm
What to
getting off of it.
commiserate.
Well, I'm getting off it. I just there's no sense.
No, I meant you'll be drinking to commiserate.
Yeah, to get get rid of my misery. Yeah, because I'm optimistic about the Patriots. I am. I always am, but I can also be a realist. So we'll see. Everybody wants to see them lose. I know that. Other than the Patriots fans, but as you can see,
Go Eagles. Sorry.
But I had a.
If you're listening to the audio only feedback or podcast, you're missing the what would we call this outfits that Dana and Steph are wearing. They're opposing viewpoints and sides of the clash Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon.
I look better as a redhead.
You do. I mean, I like that.
I don't think
color.
we disagree with that, but
anyway, go ahead, Dana. I interrupted.
So, anyways, so I apologize to Amy and Mike. I just wasn't feeling up to it. Yeah, coming back into Atlanta, had a very rude customer service representative that works in cabin service cleaning. As soon as we arrived, we were about 20 to 25 minutes behind schedule. So everybody was trying to get off the aircraft real quick to make their connections. Well, as soon as we opened up the door, the cabin service person, there's a trash can that's right by the main door, decided to open that door up and pull the trash out while all the first class passengers are trying to get off the aircraft. So I kindly said to her, and I said, would you be so kind and just wait a few minutes until we get some people off because we're running so late? She looked at me and she said, no, we got to get a quick turn. Got to get done. Sorry. I just looked at her and I said, okay.
No.
You can wait a minute. So then I let a couple more people get off, and there was a little break, and I had the trash from the flight deck in my hand. That we always have what we call a gray bag. It's our trash bag. And so I asked her to take it, and she looked at me and scowled. And I said, well, here, I'm going to put it right next to the bag that you put the trash in. And then I turned my back, and next thing I know is I hear F-U and F-F and F and F and F. I turned around and I said, excuse me? In front of our passengers? I don't think so. So I started to grab my stuff to go get her, and she flew off the jetway. Down the air stairs, which I don't know why she did it, but she decided that she was going to have a really bad attitude. So I stood there and asked her cohorts, her co-workers, well, where did she go? I don't know. Just a bad attitude. Okay. I turned around and I looked down the jetway stairs and the air stairs and didn't see her. So I started to go down, and then she comes flying back up towards the air stairs. And when she approached me and said, ma'am, I really need your name. I mean, we need to talk about this. You don't need to. And she just stormed off and ran into the airplane. I said, ma'am, I need to see your ID. I need to have your name, something. So, we can talk about this. And her ID, which is a security violation, they have I was just going to demonstrate for those that can see. Around your arm, they have an armband that has a plastic holder for your ID. And that plastic holder was underneath her arm and by her side. So I couldn't see it. Nobody could see it. I said, ma'am, you're in violation of security protocol. You need to have that displayed in a secure area. She continued to refuse to talk to me. And then she went back down the stairs down to her service area. Well, fortunately, we're B1, B as in boy 1, in Atlanta. And right below it is where their service area is. So technically, in the shadow of the aircraft, I can go down there. And I did. And got her boss involved and explained to them what had just occurred and why I feel as though it's not appropriate for her to have that attitude, especially swearing in front of our customers. And that she needed to have a little decency as far as displaying her ID, which she refused to present to me when challenged because she didn't have it properly displayed. And I made sure they told the supervisor, her bosses, that my purpose here is not to get her in trouble and or terminated. I just would like for her to understand why we, as all personnel that work representing Delta, are thought as to be Delta employees by all the passengers getting off the aircraft, and we can't have that behavior. So that was my exciting end of my trip yesterday. So
did you mean to say Acme? I'm not sure what airline you were talking about there.
No, I was thinking about the faucet company.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, no, Acme.
It's your moonlighting gig, right?
It's my moonlight gig, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you edit that out, please?
Oh, I can. Yes, I will.
We at Acme, not the faucet company. We are try to be professionals, and we represent whether we work directly for Acme or contracts for Acme. We all try to be professional, and she was the most unprofessional person I've run into in a very, very long time. So, just that was my exciting news. But the real news is I bought a new boat.
A new boat?
Yep,
Boat.
Boat.
Okay. A
No,
boat.
we were just having this conversation before we started the show about the millions upon millions of dollars that First Officer Dana is making. I was saying, look, you earn more than I do, and I'm a captain. So, and he said, no, I don't. But I am going to buy a new motorcycle. And now apparently you've bought a boat.
What kind of boat did you get?
Little rubber ducky boat for my bathtub.
I think he's
It's a
downplaying it all of a sudden.
42-foot yacht.
Remote control.
Big gold taps.
What kind of boat did you get?
I bought a pontoon. My
Oh,
wife and I
nice.
bought a tri-tune, actually.
Try to.
Ah,
Interesting.
for
Which is-
Little party boat.
Lake
Little party
Allatoona?
boat for the Lake Allatoona. Yeah. So when
nice.
anybody's in town and wants to go out on the lake,
Free beer?
might have to have an APG meetup on the lake.
Oh, that would be a lot of
Sunshine.
fun.
And, yeah. Sounds like a good time.
How many
Nice.
barrels can it hold?
It can hold a lot because it's 27 foot long with 300 horsepower on it. And it can float 15 people on it.
Dang.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a decent sized boat.
It's more like a yacht tune.
Are you going to make them all work the plank?
Well, you know what? Okay. We
So-
need to talk to our
resident
pirate. So what's going on with you, Captain Nick? Are you having any trouble with your one eye?
That's right. That's right. I've got one left. Oh, no, it was just, I came back from, where was I? I was in Washington. Came back from Washington, and we're kind of downwind, and there's some idiot in a high rise firing a laser at us as we go down. We're just about to turn crosswind. So, just the usual. We caught a glimpse of him, and you could see he was trying to target us because you could see the laser like a finger, and when it kind of turned into a very bright dot, at that point we'd sort of stuck our heads down a bit, but he was obviously having a go at us. So we reported him.
Does it kind of light up the whole cockpit?
This one didn't because we were reasonably high, so we're about 6,000-7,000 feet. But the really powerful ones can go 10 miles, so it's not really a problem. It's very clear, but very quickly he drifted below the nose, so he wouldn't have been able to angle it into our windshield, so that was okay. And whether they caught him or not, I have no idea, but I gave our traffic his position.
So you didn't really get any damage to your eyeballs?
To my eye. Oh, no, I don't have to wear a patch anymore. So no, it's fine.
I think you're disappointed by that, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I could have had a month off, couldn't I? Well, like Colonel Jeff, I
You
got.
missed your opportunity to
Yeah, I did.
do an
didn't I?
entire show with an eye patch on and gather some sympathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You blew it.
Blew it.
Well, life's a so and so, and then you die.
Well, let's hear from Steph first, because I think you're going to tell us a little bit more about your visit to Washington, D.C., or the surrounding area, right, Nick? Yeah, he's taking a swig of something right now.
Certainly.
So let's get caught up with Dr. Steph. How have you been?
I have been well. Let's see. I'm trying to think I can't remember what day we did the show last week. Was it early in the week? Is that why I'm having memory difficulty? I don't know.
Tuesday or Wednesday, I think.
I think it was early in the week. Okay. So, well, over the weekend, I did get a little bit of flying in. So that was nice and fun. I think I did a very, very short crew log just to test out how well that works. And aside from the audio actually being very quiet when I thought it would be kind of noisy, seemed to work okay. So I'll do more of those in the future. But just a little hour and 20-minute flight, just a little cross country to get some flying time in a 172. So that was a lot of fun. Kind of an overcast day, but high-ish ceilings, so no problem. Just going down about 40 nautical miles away and coming back.
Windy, or was it?
It was dead calm here by my house and at my local airport. The winds that were being reported at the airport that I went to said 4 knots and kind of a direct crosswind. However, the airport was kind of shielded by some high pine trees all the way around, and right above that, it was actually much windier. So it was kind of a fun challenge coming in. Not anything terrible, but just not quite as advertised. So, but yeah, all in all, a nice flight, and hopefully going out again this weekend for a little bit of flying too. So we shall see.
Nice.
But,
well, hope that you'll record something again. That was nice.
Yeah, I'll try and do that. And other than that, just been the usual working. I have a meeting to go to this evening, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave a little bit early today. So my apologies in advance. But I'll try and stick around for as long as I can.
Excellent. Okay. Well, very, very good. And then Captain Nick, as I alluded to just a minute or two ago, you had a layover at Washington Dulles International, and nearby anyway, and you visited the Udvar-Hazy Smithsonian
No,
National...
I went to the Very Hazy Museum.
Oh, that's a different one.
I think it might be, yeah.
Yeah, did they charge you any admission fee? And
no, but they charged my poor Robert, who came to pick me up from the hotel and drive me. They charged him $15 to park his car, which I thought was a bit rude. But no, it's very inexpensive for the Very Hazy Museum.
So I thought maybe you had gone to the other places, like a shack that's not really the Udvar-Hazy Center, but it's something entirely different. No, okay.
No, it's definitely not a shack. It was a very impressive museum. Now, I was on a two-nighter to Washington, which was my line check. Eventually, I've got that line check out the way. And on our spare day there, which is always nice to have. It doesn't happen very often in Washington. So, you usually get a few hours on the second day just to do something in the morning, and then you got to get some sleep and check out. But I had the whole day to kill, which was great. So very, very kindly, Robert Fairbairn, first of all, he invited me to his Burns night, because he's not terribly Scottish himself, in that he sounds very American, but he has a huge Scottish ancestry. And he's actually sent me a book about his grandfather, who I must take care to read that, because the stories he's telling me are brilliant about his family. So he picked me up from the hotel and drove me out there. We met Tuba Tony, who is a U.S. Navy tuba player, a musician. He wasn't able to stay very long, but he walked around with us for a while. So he's not on the recording, but great to see you, Tony. One who is an Acme Scarebus first officer, he came and joined us. And of course, we had the lovely Rebecca, who sweet lady, and had some news, but she wasn't allowed to tell us what. But it involves aviation, and she will, I hope, in the future be able to reveal all, but we'll have to wait and see. And afterwards, we went across to Adams Morgan and went to the Smoke and Barrel Bar, where just myself, Robert, met up with Daniel Goodwin, who was a chap I met in Chichester at a pub on a small meetup in the UK. A young but very keen chap who is looking to find his way into aviation and hopefully become a pilot eventually. He's currently on an internship in DC, working with the Airports Council International, and doing a lot of good work with them. He finds it fascinating, really enjoying being in DC for a year or two, and he was very nice bloke to meet and say hello to. We had some good beers there. So, but all in all, the whole idea was to go around the Udvar-Hazy, which I hadn't seen before. I'd been to the one in town, the Air and Space, but this was just brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Fantastic museum, great exhibits, and it was super going around with someone like Robert, who's been around there many times. Because whenever it looked like I was going to walk past something that might on the surface seem a little insignificant, he would pull me up and said, oh, you see through there, that Aero Commander, That's Bob Hoover's. That's the one he did all his arrows in, and little things like that. So there was a little 172 hanging from the ceiling that had been the one that had been flown by a lady around the world in 28 days. And, I'm going, wow, it's brilliant. So he knew all the little bits and bobs that were worth stopping and looking at the plaques, which made the whole thing fantastic. But what a great museum. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I wish you'd recorded some audio or something from the...
Oh, damn, yeah, if only I'd done that.
Dang it.
Oh, wait a minute. I have something here that says Udvarhazy Meetup.
Ah.
Should I play that?
Yeah, let's do that instead.
Let's see what that is.
Hi, everybody. It's Captain Nick here, and sitting at Dallas Airport, right in the observation lounge, like an air traffic control tower, overlooking the airport, because we're in the Smithsonian, the Aerospace Museum here at Dallas. And Robert has been showing me around, although as soon as I pulled out my microphone, I noticed he made a quick escape. But Rebecca's here. Rebecca, you're going to tell us your good news.
No.
Go on. Is it not for public release yet?
No. No news.
No news. All right, well, I'm the secret holder of good news for Rebecca, but she will have to tell us in her own way when she feels happy to. But we've had a quick look around the museum. What do you think?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah?
Yes, it's the happy place right here, the observation deck.
It is. But out of the exhibits downstairs, and I know you've seen them before, what's your favorite?
Oh, no, don't put me on the spot. The space shuttle.
Oh, it is. It is good, isn't it? It's a one and only, quite honestly. Absolutely brilliant. Now, okay, here we go.
British Airways 747.
British Airways 747?
Yep, I'm downwind.
Where's that come from, do you know?
London, Heathrow.
Excellent. This is Scott. He's our host today up here in the tower, and he's pointing out everything that's landing. So, quite right, there's some ancient old Boeing staggering downwind.
Well, that's a very new Boeing 747 as they go.
You mean Boeing actually make new airplanes? I thought they were all just old-fashioned.
No, that's a very apolitical thing. We've had 787s in here a short time ago, and that's the newest thing flying, except actually newer than, I don't know about the 380. I think it's newer than the 380.
How about the 350, though?
We get a few of those. We haven't seen any of the new ones.
Oh, but that's newer than the 78, surely.
Right, but we haven't seen any of the
All right, okay.
350 AWE.
But a great spot. It's a beautiful place up here.
It is.
And a great museum.
Okay, yep.
Excellent. Of course. Right now, Scott's one of the hosts here. He's done his thing. Very nice of him to spend a bit of time. So the man who's been showing me around the place, who says he's been here about 15 times and commonly shows idiots like me around this place, is Robert. Robert, how's it going?
It's been great. How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Now, thank you very much indeed for your time showing me around. And I'm going to ask you the same question. Out of all the exhibits there are below, and there's some brilliant ones, which is your favorite and which is the most interesting?
I think maybe the most interesting is the Enola Gay. It's a sobering and pretty significant thing to be looking at. I think my favorite's probably the space shuttle, just because it's so shocking, and to see it in person, it's a little different than you always expect it to be.
Absolutely, to almost be able to reach up and touch something that's been in outer space and done such a great job. There are some brilliant exhibits out downstairs and that we can see here that you will find nowhere else in the world. Can you think of a few that people might want to be interested to come and see?
Some of the stuff that I think kind of flies under the radar, I mentioned to you earlier Bob Hoover's aircraft being here, that he did so many air shows in, and also a lot of the pioneering test aircraft, the original 707 test bed, and then a couple of Goddard's original rockets are pretty cool to see in person.
Absolutely, I'll go along with that. I've had my eyes opened. It's been brilliant. We're currently watching an old Boeing clatter his way downwind. That's British Airways. We're just waiting to see if it makes it to the runway intact, which would be something of a feat for them. But we'll see how it goes. The other person, anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, I'm good. I think it's been a good day. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks very much, and we're looking forward to sharing a beer together. Now, exactly right. Now here's one. He works for an airline not unsimilar to Acme.
Yeah, very lucky you came down today. Thanks for letting me join. Such a pretty day to watch airplanes come in. And this is my first time at the museum, even though I live only 25 miles north of here.
Isn't that often the way that the local sites you rarely come out to see? You'll go miles for something else there.
Yeah, I've been to the. Yeah, it's true. I'll go out of my way on an overnight to go see a lot of these things, but yeah, I couldn't talk anybody else into coming down. Usually, coming all the way down here, especially when you have the nice museum downtown as well.
Absolutely. Now, I've asked the other two. What's your favorite exhibit here?
Oh man, I really like the Concorde. That was really cool. You know, it's I'd never seen the one up. I think it's up in New York. Is another one, or there's another one I think somewhere in the Caribbean. But that was really cool for me. I thought it was really neat.
It is. It's only a shame it's in Air France colours, but never mind. So that's I didn't actually spot which airframe it was, but that's great. And which is the most thought-provoking exhibit, you think?
Oh, all the space stuff. I mean, that's I know nothing about that, so that was really cool going through that whole exhibit, especially seeing the discovery there. So that was probably my one that made me think the most.
And an awe-inspiring site. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. We're off to go find some IPA. In the meantime, I don't think that's old 74's got any closer to the airport. God, it's slow. I'm going to leave you to it, everybody, and pass it back to Jeff. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Nick, for doing that wonderful recording. Some of the folks in the chat room were asking, what technology did you use to record that?
Well, that was just an ATR 2100. I say just, it's the microphone that you recommended for this kind of thing, and it does work very well on an XLR connection into my Zoom H5.
Lucky guess on my part.
Well done, sir. Yeah, it worked very well indeed. So, having said that, it's a nice quiet environment up there in that tower. I mean, it was a beautiful day by the time we got up there. It was forecast to be pretty overcast, perhaps a little bit of rain and snow, but it was clear blue sky, excellent viz, and sunshine, and we're looking right out over the airport. And we probably spent 45 minutes up there just chatting and watching airplanes and things. It was great fun.
Well, we're all dying to know, did the 747 ever make it to landing touchdown?
Yeah, he made it and more, because, I mean, the amount of smoke he kicked up when he landed, I mean, it was like we'd had a little patch of fog suddenly appear on the runway. So I felt a bit sorry for the poor Airbus that came after him, because you'd have laughed to land in these huge ruts that this old 747, the guy said it was a new one, but they all look like they were built in 1933.
I loved his response. Just no.
Yes.
I'm not going to play your game.
No, he definitely wasn't. I mean, he was up there actually with a bunch of Japanese tourists. He was guiding them around the place. So, and the fact he was just like talking over me. So I thought, well, rather than just try and carry on this interview with him talking, I'll just engage him, and then and it worked perfectly, because he then walked away and took his tourists somewhere else.
Come
on, folks. Let's get away from this old bearded man.
There's a crazy person over here with a microphone. We need to leave now.
You could tell he was.
There's so many other parts of the museum to see. Let's carry on. We're walking.
Nothing to see here.
It was fun. But I mean, the bits that I thoroughly enjoyed, I mean, for a start, you walk in there and you're a slightly elevated area, and in front of you, just a vast collection in just one huge room of aircraft, and then smack in front of you, just lined up with your eye line, there's an SR-71. I mean, it's all beautifully lit with spotlights on its matte black finish. Looks superb. And then immediately behind it, in the next building, but you can see through the adjoining corridor, is the space shuttle. And they're perfectly lined up. The SR-71 in front, then this vast space shuttle behind. And then, of course, you start looking around, and just there are aircraft everywhere. They're suspended, they're on the floor. There are beautifully shiny ones that have been polished with an inch in their life, and they're ones that look like they've just been dragged out of a muddy field at the end of World War II and dragged straight into the museum and dumped there. Absolutely authentic. There was a seaplane from Pearl Harbor that still looked like, I mean, it looked like it had just come out there yesterday, full of rips and tears and bullet holes and all this kind of stuff, and just positioned as it was. And you get this huge sense of history when you see an aircraft like that. And on the other hand, you see all these beautifully reconditioned ones as well that look as good as they would, in fact, probably better than when they came off the factory floor. So I just think it's a stunning place, absolutely stunning. A lot of every aircraft has a real story behind it. They don't just stick an airplane in because here's an example of. An airplane only gets there is if it was an airplane of a particular type and it did something special. So you've really got to be careful not to just walk past something thinking, oh, it's a funny looking thing, but without realizing exactly why it's there.
Yeah, I'd like to go back. We were there, what, 2 or 3 years ago, Steph?
3 years ago now.
3 years ago. Wow. Time flies,
Isn't that
doesn't
crazy?
it?
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
go back, though, because I kind of felt like, we really didn't have a lot of time to check
Yeah, it was
everything
kind
out.
of a
You need a
quick
whole day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could probably even do more than that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
At least a full day.
Robert, who's in the chat room now, as Hamish T. Haggis,
Oh, okay.
he's very knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable.
Can you
And,
understand him with that thick Scottish accent?
just. Yeah, so he was a perfect guide to show us around. We were there for like 5.5 hours, and
Wow.
the time just flew. It really wasn't a problem. It was brilliant.
Was
Awesome.
that your first time there, Nick?
Yeah, to that one. I've been to, obviously, to the one in town, because normally on a one day you haven't got time to get out all the way out back to the airport and then all the way, because our hotel's up near the zoo, which is on the other side of DC. So it's a good 45-minute drive or an hour's drive, depending on if you're a bus or not. If you try and do it in public transport, it takes forever.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Well, speaking of meetups, need to tell you if you're in the Kansas City, Kansas area on the 9th of, wow, this month already. Is it February 1st already?
It is February 1st, so that's
Wow.
next Friday?
Indeed.
I think so. Yeah. Does that sound right? It's
Yes,
the 9th
that's correct.
of February. Thank you. We tried to do this last month, but my trip kind of got a little messed up and didn't get there in time to really have a good meetup. So we decided we'd cancel that one and try it again in February. And so that's what we're going to do. I should be getting in around midday, so I'll have plenty of time, to take my old man's nap and be suitably,
Rested.
coherent
Coherent.
for a meetup and rested. Yes. So I'm assuming we'll probably do it about the same time, perhaps a little bit earlier, but details about that meetup will be available in Slack, and Tom is the one that is organizing that again for us. So look forward to seeing you if you're in the greater Kansas City area. Now, Tom Seagraves is actually in Columbia, Missouri, which is like an hour-and-a-half drive, I think. So you don't have to be that close. You can come on in and join us for some good barbecue and aviation talk. So there you go. Again, if you haven't joined Slack yet, listen to Hillel at the end of the show, and he'll tell you how to do it. And, oh, hey, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Huh?
Everywhere you...
No.
No.
Oh,
No.
is it? Did I miss it?
Yes.
Easter
Yeah.
next. Easter.
Oh, well, I got
Valentine's Day.
a Christmas gift.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
Yeah, I got this package. Actually, I got a note from somebody, Mike Cochran, who basically said, apparently you don't check your P.O. box very often because I sent something and it was returned. Oops.
Whoops.
Oh,
So sorry, Mike. Anyway, he said, what's your home address? I'm going to send it there. I went, okay. So I got back from my last trip, and I opened up the box. Here, let me see. I'm going to see if I can share some photos with you all in the video. Let's see if I can do this.
this is the last we see of Jeff.
Yeah, it might
Goodbye.
be actually.
Yeah, nice seeing you, Jeff.
Oh, why is my
I can have the
Hangout?
rest of the afternoon off. Yay!
Hey,
Wow.
is your Hangout app thing working in your Hangout?
No, it
Hangout
came
app
up with a
thing
message.
working?
What is it
What do you
called? The Hangout Toolbox?
It said you were trying to use the toolbox.
Yeah, I'm trying to use it, but it's not loading.
Okay.
Okay, there are other ways
Toolbox.
to skin this cat.
Nope,
And
not working.
please, I'm just kidding. I'm speaking figuratively. I like cats. I don't skin them.
Yeah, I don't need to see any more animals injured today. Thanks.
Yes. So.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
What's
What?
my taco?
No, taco's fine. It was a deer, and it wasn't my fault. So, but it's another story entirely.
What happened?
Wait,
Did you kill a deer?
No, someone else in my neighborhood tried to this morning as I was leaving for work.
With a
I
gun?
stopped for the deer, turned on my flashers, and they continued to drive right past me. And that's when the deer took off and the deer ran into the side of their car, kind of like bounced off. And there was all this fur, huge noise. The guy never even stopped, or lady, who knows, just kept going. Amazing.
So
And-
do you having venison for dinner?
Fortunately, the deer survived, or at least.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Initially.
It did well enough that it ran back across the road and back into the woods. So
it might be in concussion protocol now, though.
I think it probably is. It was a pretty big collision, and I'm just amazed that person didn't stop, didn't do anything.
It's just a deer.
Well, yeah,
No,
but I mean,
Yeah.
on that same part of the road, there's plenty of crosswalks where, okay, so this was 6:00 in the morning and it was dark, but during the rest of the day, there's kids, we have a lot of retired folks in our neighborhood. We have golfers on golf carts. We have all kinds of stuff. So I just shudder to think how they drive the rest of the time. But anyway,
Yeah.
I see
was
your
sad.
picture,
So-
Jeff.
So do you see that?
Yes.
That's the package. After I opened it up, it didn't look quite like that when it was delivered. But I opened it up, and then after the fact, I thought, I should take a picture of that. So you can see on it, it says Yeti, and I'm thinking, ooh, some kind of a big snow monster thing. Right?
Coolers.
Yeah, and it's a tumbler. It's a 30-ounce tumbler, and when I turn the camera back on, I'll show you what it looks like. But
I'm accepting Yetis for the boat.
are you okay? Well, hang on. So I got this
Cooler.
this note with it, and so let me switch the camera back to me. I need like a video engineer.
Picture.
Oh,
Yeah.
there goes the picture.
You want to have a word with Matt about how to do that?
That's an improvement, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks. My little avatar is what you're seeing here. I'm going to turn on
there
the
you go.
FaceTime camera then, see if that works. No, of course not.
Goodbye.
Oh well,
Bye.
yeah. It was nice seeing you
It's
all.
nice seeing you.
Anyway, so just imagine that I'm in person on the camera right now.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. Oh, am I back?
You're back.
Oh, look
You're
at that. Okay. So it says, "Greetings, Captain Jeff
Indeed.
and crew. I just wanted to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and congratulations on reaching episode number 300. I apologize for not leaving any feedback lately. However, it appears that your mailbag is full enough. Just wanted to let you know that I'm still a loyal listener and eagerly await to the publishing of each new episode. Not so much has changed with me lately. I'm still flying HEMS, so Helicopter Emergency Medical Services. Is that what that stands for? HEMS? I think so. With the same company, although I'm now located in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and flying a different airframe, the Airbus H135P2 Plus, which is pictured below. And you're just going to have, I can tell you, I'll show you right here in the video there. That's the picture
Airbus
of his new
helicopter.
ride.
Like it.
And
Wow.
let's see.
Looks a lot more sleek than an Airbus does.
Or like an Airbus airplane.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
'Cause this is an
helicopter's good
Airbus.
looking. Yeah, it's good looking.
And he says, and yes, I'm going to have to side with Captain Nick and say I'm an Airbus fan, at least in the rotorcraft world.
He doesn't need any encouragement.
No, he doesn't.
Mike, thank you.
Okay, so
You know,
if you,
Good job, Mike. Good
You
job.
know, Nick, when you're complaining about 747, I'm telling you, they're always looking down on you.
We don't care. I
It's
mean,
all right. They're looking down on you.
yeah. It's only because they couldn't
I
figure
think
some way to stick the cockpit at a decent altitude. I don't know. I mean, just think,
Okay.
you got to climb stairs to go to work. What's that about?
Exercise.
That's lazy
Cardio.
Airbus. That's lazy Airbus pilot talk right there.
so going on with Mike's letter, hello, let's pay attention, people.
Sorry.
If you all ever find yourselves at Chippewa International Airport, KCIU, I hope your emergency landing was uneventful, as I'm sure you would not be here otherwise. Further, look me up. There are a few good local breweries in town. Enclosed, you'll find a little Christmas gift as a token of my appreciation for all the hard work and dedication. You have a listener until the very end. And so Here is the
Very end of
Yeti.
the day.
And
Oh,
I don't know if you can
exactly.
tell
Look at
here,
that.
but
That's
we
awesome.
have
Oh,
Airline
and
Pilot
it
Guys
says Captain
show.
Jeff.
Captain Jeff. And look,
Oh,
it's
nice
even
one.
better. We have
Yes.
coffee.
Candy.
Candies like
Chocolates. Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yes. And I have to say I've had some of them already.
Excellent.
And I also, this little foam cover, I stuck in here, and I put it in my bag, and it smells like Reese's peanut
Added
butter
bonus.
cups. Yes.
Added bonus.
And,
You're perfuming your windshields now? Oh, Jeff.
yes.
It's going to look like a ravenous
Anyway,
dog here shortly.
I'm really sad that oh, wait a minute, hang on here. Let me see if I can.
At least you get your Carfax report.
Yeah, and I want to know if it actually fits in the coffee cup holder on the aircraft.
Well, you're going to be able to find out
Oh,
because look at there.
oh my God!
Mike.
Oh,
Thank you.
brilliant!
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, we're showing a picture now
One
of
for-
all four
Who's this
of
old
these
curmudgeon?
Yeti 30-ounce things. It says
Who is
Captain
that
Jeff,
old
Dr. Steph,
curmudgeon?
Old Curmudgeon, and Captain Dana.
Oh, what a
Oh,
gent.
that's
Thank you,
jinxing.
Dana. Or thank you, Mike.
That's awesome. But
Thanks,
that's
Mike.
like a
That's
jinx.
brilliant.
Is
I'm
it?
not a captain yet. I'm scared.
Well, you can't have yours until you're actually a captain.
Okay, I'll take it as a
It'll just be
okay.
Yeah,
put on
we'll
later.
stick it in a museum then.
It'll
Oh,
be
by the-
next year's Christmas.
By the
gift.
way, Dana, I have a challenge coin for you that was it Armando,
Armando.
that
Oh, yeah, they're brilliant.
at the PTUK
All right.
200th. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'll buy the drinks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyway, remind me of that, Dana. I got to get that to you. Has your name on it and everything. So
Challenge coin.
Challenge coin.
Yeah.
It looks like this, if you can see my picture. So these were from Armando.
That's awesome.
Really cool. So
yep.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
So, thank you again, Mike, for doing that. It was a very, very generous gift to the APG crew. We do appreciate it. We miss hearing from you, but it's good to hear that you're all safe and sound in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. That's always one of those interesting things. The way they spelled it is SAULTSTE period Marie. And am I pronouncing it right though?
Yes.
Is it Sault Ste. Marie?
that's how
Sault Ste.
we
Marie.
pronounce it. That's how we pronounce it.
Yeah, I heard the snowmobiling up there is fantastic.
Oh.
I love snowmobiling. Maybe
Did I hear a...
Yeah,
Yes.
Steph did hers. Okay, wait.
You got to show some video evidence here, Jeff. Yeah, liar.
Yeah, I don't
Drinks
have
on
mine.
you.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Anything else we want to talk about here before? Oh, yeah. One more thing. We have a new member of the APG team helping us out, and she's brand new, and we just had our first meeting yesterday to talk about kind of what goes on behind the scenes and ways
Nice
that
to get a professional involved at last.
yes, we need. I need help. That's for sure. And you may have heard of her. Her name is Elizabeth Piper, in Toronto. I thought that she'd make a great producer, and so she's going to be helping us out behind the scenes and kind of helping us organize things and pick feedback for the shows and do some of those things that take a lot of my time, and that'll free up some of my time to do some other things. So thank you, Liz, for accepting the invitation, and I look forward to working with you in the future. So, yay. Oop,
Yay.
nice applause there. Oh, here. I have
Yay.
a little button here I can press. Whoa!
Welcome, Liz.
Wow,
Congrats.
was that loud for you guys?
No, that was
No,
fine.
not too bad.
Okay, it was very loud in my earbuds. Okay, sorry. Yeah, with that, I guess we can move on to the coffee fund quickly. We'll get that out of the way, and then we'll move on to the little bit of news that we have in the news folder. So here we go. Take it away, the Java Jive Coffee Fund singers.
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. All right, if you want to support us in a financial way, If you have the resources to do so, you can join the Coffee Fund cadre, those who have decided to give us some contributions to help support all the costs of doing the show. And since the last episode, the Coffee Fund Classic, we have two ways to do this. Coffee Fund Classic via PayPal. Steve Trumbull and Kevin Cole sent us donations using that particular method. And then we also have the Patreon, or you can become a patron via patreon.com, become a producer, in effect, of the show. And since the last episode, we have 4, actually 5, because one of these is actually 2 people, new patrons for the show. The first one, Peter Griffiths, not Peter Griffin, but Peter Griffiths, Graham Haley. Graham. Had a good time talking with him and visiting with him at the PTUK 200 thing. I just recognized his name. Went, oh, I know who that is. The podcast that Nick has talked about before, Opposing Bases. It's a brand new show inspired by ours. And they are 2 pilots and air traffic controllers that do the show, AG and RH. And again, their podcast is Opposing Bases. They became executive producers of the show. I wonder if they're going to try to take over. Got to be careful about those guys. And finally, Richard Mueller, or Richard Muller, is also a new producer of the show. So if you want to join them, it's a great group of people. Head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You can learn about the different methods to become part of the Coffee Fund cadre. So thank you again for all of your support. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Boy.
Stand by for news.
Okay, our first item in the news bag is
me. Dave Abbey made it official. In the hangout.
What
I'm no
now?
longer going to be on the show. That's the news of the day.
Is it? Okay, well, that's news to me.
HR was supposed to break that.
Yeah, it wasn't, we weren't quite ready to go live with that news. Dave, Abby. No.
Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Somebody kick him out of that chat room.
No.
Nice knowing you guys.
To be clear, Dana is going nowhere. He is
All right.
here.
And that's what his parents said.
That's what my
Dana
mother.
is going nowhere.
I wish I get rid of him. It's my fault.
Okay, let's get this back on track. I was going, what are you talking about? I apologize for whomever sent this. Do I have that in the notes? I think I do. Jake Wheeler. There we go. He sent in this article about, we talked about emotional support animals on the show. This one, let's see, a female traveler was recently banned from taking a large emotional support peacock on board a United Airlines flight. She had offered to buy the bird its own plane ticket, according to travel blog Live and Let Fly. Nonetheless, the airline refused to let the bird board at Newark Airport in New Jersey, saying it did not meet guidelines due to its weight and size. Ooh, I didn't know they had guidelines for peacocks. Interesting.
I think it's probably spelled out explicitly.
Is it?
If customer is buying ticket for peacock, be sure peacock meets said weight, size requirements.
Apparently,
must fit in this sizer.
It's one of those little things where you stick your
like
bag
for your
in.
baggage. Yeah.
Stick your peacock
if
in
your
here.
peacock does not fit in all the way in, you can't bring peacock.
Wow.
Yeah.
We
Just
can
take
so
it
many
up.
places with that, can't we?
I
Family
wouldn't.
show.
Just take it at face value and move on.
It's a family show.
Pictures of the striking bird and its owner attempting to travel to Los Angeles Yeah. There
So
you
the
go.
cock was striking out.
Yeah, emerged via the Jet Set, a travel-based talk show. The images show the animal perched on the airport baggage trolley as fellow passengers gaze at it in shock. After 6 hours at the airport, the exotic bird and its human companions decided to take the road and instead drive across the U.S.
I would say
Now-
that's one peed off peacock.
My favorite part of the story is that apparently this lady called the airline several times before she actually showed up to the airport with the peacock. And on all 3 separate occasions, they told her she would not be allowed to bring her peacock on the flight.
She's not one to take no for an answer.
She was persistent. Nevertheless, she persisted, right?
Yes.
But she's actually a Brooklyn-based artist who documents the life of her, I don't know, herself or a peacock on social media. So there wouldn't be any publicity angled to this event. No.
Oh, come on. Don't be so skeptical.
Oh,
Nick.
okay. Sorry, guys.
Of course not.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one of the items we have. It's a very slow news week. So
yeah,
the
That's
other
why we're leading with that one, because it was.
we're leading with that one. That just tells you something right there. And the other item that we have in the news bag is at least 60 airplanes to do Super Bowl shuffle to St. Cloud runways. Now, St. Cloud is a private air or a smaller general aviation type of airport close to the big Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport.
I just assumed these were all Boeings and they had to have a few spares for the ones that broke.
Nope, you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
These are going to be several, approximately 70 to 90 airplanes, very expensive business jets coming in because the Super Bowl is kind of a big thing here in the U.S. And this year, the city of Minneapolis is sponsoring or holding the Super Bowl. And St. Cloud just happens to be, I guess, the closest place for these expensive biz jets to fly in and park overnight or at least during the day. Anyway, the article goes on to talk about the owner of this FBO and how they are going to fit in this very large number of big airplanes. Big for them. They're used to general aviation size airplanes, not big business jets.
And probably not that many all at once. So
yeah,
question of where to park all of them. They kind of have it laid out on the table. They've created this map and parking scheme, and who's going
I was going to say, just bring in consultants from Augusta, Georgia, when the Masters is going on. Pretty much every corporate jet in the world shows up there.
It's true.
That is true. Or go to Oshkosh. They know a thing or two about fitting a whole bunch of airplanes into a small space.
Yeah.
Have you ever, speaking of that, have any of you flown into Oshkosh before?
No.
I have twice. It's quite an adventure.
Yeah, we've had people send feedback and YouTube videos and the whole bit about their experience doing that.
It's an amazing feat how well they do that operation. Not to diverge off the topic, but it's if you get that same type of operation, going up in St. Cloud at minus 14 degrees up there right now, if you want somebody outside doing that, it's an amazing feat that you have that many airplanes coming in, and they basically put spots. I don't know if you've ever talked about it before. I know we haven't when I've been, but they put spots on the runway, and the GA aircraft are all landing at the same time on the spots. So you're using one runway to land.
If you ever listen to our podcast, he knows that we've talked about that a few times.
I don't like you anymore.
It's okay. There might be people out there who are just tuning in for the first time who
Yes.
know nothing about Oshkosh.
So there you go. Oshkosh spots on the runways. Colored spots.
Jeff, I can't listen to every podcast ever.
Your homework was to start at number 1, Catholic pilot.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, he doesn't have the.
I tried.
You got to catch the APG syndrome.
I have the APG syndrome.
Hey, so
On
I
this side of
actually, I have a question.
APG syndrome. Okay.
The serious
ahead.
question.
Serious
The
question.
title of this article was "The Airplanes Are Doing the Super Bowl Shuffle." Do you have any? Do you have a clip of the real Super Bowl Shuffle as performed by the 1985 Super Bowl winning Bears team?
Of course I do. Steph, doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
I
No.
don't.
Being from Chicago originally, obviously.
No, Perry the
I don't.
Bears.
So
Would that be something that you could find on
not quickly
like
enough.
Google or something like that?
Yeah, probably.
Super Bowl Shuffle.
While we're talking about that, I love the sophistication of their airport map, which is a big piece of white paper, and all the airplanes, little cardboard cutouts, and how they like trying to play jigsaw with them.
It's kind of like when you're trying to fit the furniture in your living room. you
Yeah,
know, kind of
that's
thing.
right. I'd love to see what they've written beside each of these little airplane models, because they're little handwritten notes. Perhaps it's the seniority or the order of famousness of the various
I was going to say
owners.
net worth, maybe. Who gets
You know what they
to-
said in the article that they really don't. All they know is that mostly VIPs, and they really don't know who who the VIPs are. They're usually pretty hush hush about that.
All right.
At least that's what they say.
I wonder if Trump's going to show up.
I don't know. Let's see here. Let me turn this on and see if we can hear. Oh, good.
That's not it.
No, because it's an ad. Thank you very much. Let me skip the ad. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
We are the Bears, shuffling crew, shuffling on down, doing it for you. We're so bad, we know we're good, blowing your mind like we knew we would. You know we're just strutting for fun, strutting our stuff for everyone. We're not here to start no trouble, we're just here to do the Super Bowl shuffle.
Well, they call me sweetness, and I like to dance. Running the ball is like making more man.
Okay.
And, sorry, Echo.
Here, I know. I am.
No, it's okay.
Go.
Dana will be able to tell us which team does. No?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
of course I know.
There's
Which-
too many.
which team the Bears
There's too many things for me to.
That led them to-
Barry the Bears.
Mhm.
Our former coach was, I think his first name, I can't forget his first name. His last name was Barry. And we lost our Super Bowl game to the Bears.
Ooh.
All right.
That, Jim McMahon was the quarterback, and Perry, the refrigerator, was a lineman
yeah.
that was put as a running back. And I don't know if too many people can stop about 350 pounds of rumbling blubber coming at you. So, that's that was our first Super Bowl appearance, and we lost.
Oh.
You've made up for it, though.
Now, hopefully, I'm not crying next week.
Now, I'm just guessing the refrigerator didn't do too many rushes, though. I mean, as a running back, he'd have run out of steam fairly quickly, wouldn't he?
He would, but once you're driving down and you're like on less than the 5-yard line going in for a touchdown, it was pretty hard to stop the man. I mean, he just
yeah.
You could have about 14 people hanging on to him. There's only 11 on the field, by the way, and he'd still be running. So,
yeah.
Well, I'm
Pretty
sorry for
amazing.
that diversion away from aviation.
Oh, that's okay.
stuff,
We
but
we
Super Bowl
welcome.
is coming up this
We
weekend.
welcome
a little bit of
diversity.
football
anyway.
talk.
All right. Well, that's enough for our not real news, but whatever. I had to put something in the news folder. Okay. And that means we can move on to the best part of the show. Please help us.
Storm in the Ohio Valley.
Captain, incoming message.
All righty. Let's see. Let's move over to the episode 309 folder and start with the first one from Adam. He says, and this, I apologize, it's taken so long for me to get to this, Adam. He sent this to us in the early part of December. Captain Jeff, I'll be keeping an eye on your Where is Captain Jeff calendar. By the way, that's one of the pages on the website. If you come through Tampa sometime in the next year, I'd like to contribute in person to the coffee fund. Yes. I work at TPA on the airport's expansion program, and I've just discovered APG recently. The 300 episodes, most 2+ hours, are perfect to get me through my day. I guess he doesn't do a lot of work. during the day. I've done a little math, and at the rate that I listen, 2 to 3 episodes a week, I'll have enough content to get through another 2.5 years of my consultancy position here. I listen to the newest episode available, then cherry pick some older ones that look interesting. I appreciate the effort and time you all put into this endeavor. As someone who has always been interested in aviation, your podcast satisfies more curiosity than you know, even for someone with experience working in aviation every day. Huh, very good. Just for the heck of it, I included a shot of an Antonov that recently stopped by the Tampa International Airport. And he put a picture of it, and we'll put that in the show notes so you can see it as well. It's one of those, the one that looks like a C5. We call it a C5 ski. Basically the Russian equivalent of the C5 with the big nose, opened up and kneeling down to accept cargo.
First time I saw that, I thought the guy had crashed, and that was just all the debris littered all over the air.
It does kind of look like that.
Rather unfortunate.
Oh my gosh, what happened? That's terrible.
He broke his nose off, and there's debris everywhere.
So Adam, great to have another new listener, and welcome, and I look forward to meeting with you whenever I have another Tampa layover, because I really enjoy Tampa.
Sounds a very nice chap.
Yeah. Glenn said, this is actually a tweet from Glenn. I must have captured it. And he said, at APG Crew, which is our crew Twitter ID, he says, I never knew this. I guess only in Russia would someone try this. And then he put this link, and I went, try what? And so the link that he sent to us was, I guess somebody else tweeted this. It's WTF Facts. I guess WTF stands for what the fudge?
Exactly.
In 1986, a Soviet pilot made a bet with his co-pilot that he could land the airplane blind with curtained cockpit windows. He crashed the plane into the landing strip, killing 70 of 94 passengers and crew. Way to go.
Yeah, good
nice job.
I wonder if he's still in jail.
That's a Darwin Award.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I think you got to kill yourself, though, don't you? Maybe he survived it. I don't know. Maybe he killed himself.
No, I was just reading the Wikipedia entry on this particular incident.
Tell us more about it.
Well, I'll just read the crash summary because it's not terribly lengthy.
Okay.
It says, while approaching this airport in Russia that I can't pronounce, the pilot, neither of which I can't pronounce either of their names. One of the pilots made a bet with
try, please.
Kluyev?
No, I'm just kidding.
And Zirnov? I have no idea. Could make an instrument-only approach with a curtained cockpit window, thus having no visual contact with the ground, instead of an NDB approach, which was suggested by air traffic control. They ignored ground proximity warnings at an altitude of 62 to 65 meters and did not make the suggested go-around. So the aircraft touched down at a speed of 150 knots and came to rest upside down. 63 people died during the accident and 7 more in hospitals later. 14 children survived. And let's see. I was trying to see.
What kind of airplane was it?
It was a Tu-134A.
So,
Aeroflot. Yeah, Tupolev. And
is that a jet or is that one of their props? I'm not sure.
No, it's a jet. It's a jet.
Okay.
And
Brilliant.
it says even the co-pilot who, let's see, I'm not sure which pilot was which, but the pilot who made the bet, it doesn't say anything of, they both survived. Well, initially, the one who made the bet initially was prosecuted, sentenced to 15 years in prison, later reduced to 6 years served. And the other pilot died on the way to the hospital of cardiac arrest after he subsequently tried to save some passengers. So.
Wow, that's sad.
And that was in 1986, October 20th, for those who are asking.
Huh.
So.
And the Tu-134 looked a bit like a Mad Dog.
A little bit. Yep.
With a pointy pod on the top of the tail. It's got it's T-tail. It's 2 rear-mounted engines, low wing, sweatback, pointy front end, about the same size, perhaps a little bit smaller.
And Dana and I do this kind of thing all the time. Make these kind of bets and take the curtain. Oh, wait a minute, we don't have any curtains. We need to get curtains.
Just do it with your eyes closed.
We need to get a curtain, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Glenn, for that.
Yeah, I'm just. There's got to be a suitable comment to say about idiots like that, but I just can't think of one derogatory enough.
I don't think there is one.
Yeah.
I just want to know why I would have a glass enclosure in the nose. Navigating, maybe?
Oh, it's for the bomb aimer. No, seriously. That era, almost all their civil aircraft had bomb aimers positions in the front, so that they could, at almost the flick of a switch, turn all their civil airliners into military aircraft.
Wow.
Interesting.
Brilliant.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Just pulled up a picture of it. That is interesting.
All right. Well, we learn something new every day. And
Here's
sometimes
one
we learn things that we don't really want to know about. Thank you, Glenn. Jake sent this in. He says, hello, everyone. Loving the show as always. Jake from Brighton in the UK here. Just a quick follow-up to the 747 handling talk from last week. If some listeners thought that that was hard work, watch this 747 pilot wrestle all the way to touchdown. So we have another YouTube video with somebody that has a camera on the pilot, in this case the captain, wrestling with the control yoke and trying to land an airplane. And I forgot exactly, I do remember watching it, but I don't remember the exact circumstances, but did look like he had quite a handful, and I think it was quite windy, if I recall. But
It also looks like he's listening to his iPod.
It
does. He's got a pair of like Apple headphones in his
final countdown. Okay.
Overlay that with like 50, 40, 30, right?
I love it.
Yep, that's the final countdown.
I mean, I have to say, when we talked about this last time, there's no doubt about it. You have to move a yoke further than you obviously do a little control stick. So, making the same adjustments require a lot more physical movement and effort. And what can look as if it's being fraught and, a huge amount of heaving and pulling and tugging. Those Boeing guys love tugging. Then
Who doesn't?
Then I would guess, I don't know, Jeff, you have you watched yourself do this?
So yeah, since we've been talking about this, I'm actually paying more close attention to that kind of thing, and I'm going, dang, I'm really moving this thing a lot, even when it feels relatively smooth, and you're making all these tiny, really, tiny adjustments in with the flight controls to keep the airplane. If you're sitting in the back, you just feel like it's just on a rail or something similar to it. But up front, we're really working hard, moving that thing around to keep the jet, the trajectory of the path, vertical and horizontal, to get right to that precise spot on the runway. And you just don't, unless somebody calls attention to it. Like, do you like when you're golfing and you are swinging or putting, are you breathing or are you holding your breath? You don't really pay attention to that until somebody asks, or gives you some reason to start paying attention to it. And yeah, there's a lot of movement there. And then when it's a situation where you have like a really strong gusty crosswind, it's just amplified even more.
Yeah, constant movement.
And interestingly, I guess I need to find a video of the same type of thing with the side stick controller version of this kind of thing. And I was always, as I think I mentioned before, I was always amazed at how much that side stick controller was actually moving when you guys are hand flying it coming in for an approach. I guess the difference is that the Airbus computers probably say, yeah, we don't need to do that. No, we're not going to really do that. We're just going to take that as a suggestion.
Too much.
Yeah, it's way too much. I don't know. Not having had the experience myself, but
love being a vote in the cockpit.
Yeah. Well, it's I guess the fly-by-wire Boeing's kind of the same thing, right? You're still inputting information, but the computers are kind of going, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
I don't. That's a very good question. I don't know if there is a computer that actually calculates all the variables that the Airbus does on the Boeing, because
I'm not sure.
You basically with the Boeing, you're moving the controls which is sending an electronic signal to the actuators. I don't know that it goes to the computer system like it does on the Airbus, which the Airbus, if it doesn't like what
Every
you're doing,
fly-by-wire system goes via a computer, Dana. So you're feeding inputs to a computer. The computer is passing them on. Now, how Boeing massage its flight laws, I don't know, but I think you'll probably find they're not that dissimilar.
Yeah, I think they're closer. They're more similar than they are dissimilar, I think. Of the fly-by-wire versions. Of course,
Yeah,
the 7.4 and I guess the newest 747 is a fly-by-wire, right? But all the previous ones were more conventional.
Every
777 is-
fighter pilot nowadays in a modern fly-by-wire aircraft is doing exactly the same.
Yep, because most of the modern fighters out there today, if you didn't have a computer system to do that, the airplane would be uncontrollable because it's essentially
Right. All of them are dynamically unstable.
Yeah, unstable.
I do have a friend of mine that has taught the 737 for 10 years and now is an Airbus instructor for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm going to see if he's available for that question because that's a good one. I'm not.
Yeah, the 7.3 would be conventional.
Yeah.
No, and the NG.
No, even the every version of the 7.3 I think is still
Don't
conventional.
forget,
There's no
737
fly-by-wire.
is a 1950s airplane just with a new coat of paint.
Yeah, even the brand new ones, the Max, I think that's still conventional. It's not fly-by-wire. But the 777, the 787, and I think maybe the latest version of the 747, the 8, is fly-by-wire. I think. Don't send me email if I'm wrong. Send some feedback and tell me I'm wrong. Well, speaking of Airbuses and Boeings, and I titled this piece of feedback by Alex, Boeing Hater, and you'll see why here in a second. Alex writes, new year, so thought would send some feedback and questions from my passenger experiences from last year. Question 1, pilot seats. I've noticed that on Boeing aircraft, the pilot seat generally has a sheepskin cover, and on an Airbus, not. Is that an option the airline decides, or pilots? What's your preference? I don't know. I've flown Mad Dogs that have sheepskin covers on the seats, and most of them don't. And honestly, I'm not sure I could really tell a difference if I was blindfolded. What about you, Dana?
It's an option, I think.
Yeah.
I can. When you sit down, it feels a little bit more plush. I mean, the old covers are kind of just very hard and very rigid, whereas the lambskin covers have a little plushness to them. I can definitely tell when I'm sitting in one.
Well, he has a more sensitive bum than I have.
Well, it's just more comfortable.
I was just thinking maybe it's, just covering up where there's like tears in the fabric, or if the seat's a little worn, you just slap on the sheepskin cover and good to go.
Or somebody left a stain.
A stain, yeah. No one wants to see.
We don't really want to know about that.
So we have a few on our fleet, Airbus fleet, with sheepskin covers. The majority not. They've got the standard Airbus grey and blue stripe. But when I was with the Aussies in Australia on the F-18, they had sheepskin cover on their F-18 seats, and it's brilliant in a hot climate because it actually gives you that little bit of trapped air between you and the seat and stops you getting quite so sweaty. So it was brilliant. But the trouble with the sheepskin cover is, some guys are mess eaters, and before long you'll find caked chocolate on the seat pan, and you're trying to climb. You're looking to climb into this seat, and it looks manky and covered in grot, and you're really going, no, I don't.
Oh, hang on, I gotta write these down. Manky and covered with grot. What language are you using again?
It's Old English, I'm sure. Old English. Yeah.
I learned so much from you.
Yeah,
I love it actually.
Can I talk ranking and grot about the RJ seat covers? Because I got to be honest, I have never seen this at Acme mainline, but at when I was flying the RJs, I got to tell you what, those seat covers weren't very good, because after a while, after the new airplanes had been used for a while, this may be well, it is disgusting. frankly, there was a brown stripe in the middle of the seat. Yeah, light brown stripe. It was, you get a nice white cover and a nice brown stripe. It was disgusting. Frankly, disgusting. I don't know if anybody else.
Just a coffee spill. That's all. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, sure. It just,
it's coffee or chocolate.
I don't know if anybody else listening to this that flies RJs has noticed that, but I know at my former, it was just disgusting. Think about just sitting.
Well, somebody scared something out of them, I guess.
It just wasn't one airplane. It was just about any aircraft that had been there for a long time. It was just
I love it.
I don't need to digress anymore.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is one of my pet hates, though, when guys climb out of the cockpit, they make no effort to tidy up after them. I mean, when you climb in, you're getting into a cockpit. The cleaners won't do a lot in there because they're terrified of getting their standard cleaning gear anywhere near the instruments, etc., because they could do a lot of damage. So there's very little done. And if you see coffee cups and old water bottles and food debris everywhere, and I mean it's just a mess.
That's
and
unprofessional.
Really upsets me. Exactly. To try to spend the first 10 minutes tidying up after the last guys, and then brushing the seats down and eventually making it acceptable as a working environment. So if any of you guys are listening, pull your finger out and clean the damn thing up when you get out.
People that listen to this show aren't guilty of that, I'm sure. But
I love, we only have the neatest, most polite, considerate listeners.
What I love is the little water bottles we have, which are much smaller than the one I have here. Little plastic water bottles, Dasante or whatever they're.
The ones in between the rudder pedals.
Yeah. Well, like when you get there and you grab it and you go to open it up and you realize that, like it's only 1/3 full and, somebody left their used bottle for you. Oh, how nice. How considerate. Exactly. And as you said, the same thing, the trash can, they didn't bother, cleaning up the trash and taking the trash can out. Dana talked about that earlier where he was handing the trash can because Dana knows how to keep a cockpit clean.
Well, it's funny you should say that because one of my friends that I helped from ASA and wrote him a letter of recommendation, I took an airplane from him, and I want to say it was probably Louisville, Kentucky, or somewhere around there. He just flown it in. He was going the overnight, and I took it from him, and I get in the flight deck, and there's a gray bag there full of trash. And it was, maybe... there's only one leg's worth of flight plan and coffee cups. It wasn't very much in there. And so I texted him. I said to him, so since when did I ever tell you to leave trash in here? And he said, oh, no, there's very little. So I left it there. And I said, no, you don't get it. Empty your trash out of the cockpit. Gone. I don't want it in the cockpit. Don't leave your trash behind.
Dana, you don't understand. He was going green.
Just like that half-drunk bottle of water.
Yeah.
And Nick, you mentioned all the controls, right? How often are you in the Jeff in the crew lounge, and you go use the restroom, and you see guys come out of there that go to the restroom and don't use the water and soap to wash your hands. Next thing you know, they're touching.
That's not good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But having said that, I have been with some lovely first officers, and you see them, they get straight on the flight deck, out come a whole bunch of biological wipes, and they're going over all the controls, wiping all the throttles off and making sure everything's pristine, and they're doing the microphones and things, and I'm thinking, that is real nice. In fact, one guy would even take out a paintbrush, a little soft paintbrush, and dust off all the screens, so there was no dust on them to reflect
fingerprints
the sunlight.
For people to actually reach forward and touch
the
the screen
that
for
is
some unknown reason.
hate of mine. Why
hate that too.
Put your finger on the damn screen to point at it, idiot.
I hate that.
Oh, thanks, Steph. I didn't get started on that.
Well, I just know how much really with that.
Speaking of all this stuff, I have a very interesting question for you.
You do.
I thought of it.
Okay.
And so the TSA gave me something that
I'm sorry. Was it?
Yeah, no, they were nice. They gave a little
Was
pen
it cavity
size,
inspection that they gave you?
Yes, a body cavity inspection with no gloves. So no, they gave me a little pen-sized little spray thing that you can stick in your shirt pocket that has rubbing alcohol and some aloe in it, whatever else. So I've been refilling it and putting isopropyl rubbing alcohol because I always spray my hands in the flight deck for obvious reasons we've been talking about. And I was starting to think about that, though. Our skin absorbs anything that's our hands that are put on it. Would that show up on a alcohol test? If I'm spraying isopropyl alcohol 70% on my hands?
Tongue for a start. It's not a breath.
Right.
No.
Unlikely. I mean, I don't think you're going to absorb enough through your skin to make any dent in your blood alcohol content with rubbing alcohol just for your skin. Most of it's going to evaporate when it hits your skin because it evaporates very quickly. No, I don't think that's going to be an issue. It's funny that you mentioned that, though, because I think I've told this story here before, but the one time I was pulled aside by TSA was because I, go through the metal detector or whatever, you get random screening, no big deal. They go over, they swab off your hands to see if you have any residue of suspicious things on your hands, and it alarmed and came back positive. And I went, oh, that's interesting. But they did tell, so backstory is that morning I was doing a cadaver lab for a workshop that I was attending in Chicago. Definitely washed my hands afterwards, but we were kind of in a hotel conference center environment. And they said sometimes the cheap soaps with different glycerin content to them will alarm false positives. So something to think about. So even if you've cleaned your hands appropriately, not that it's a blood alcohol content problem, but just for the TSA's
bomb residue
detection
thing.
stuff.
Yeah, I can just imagine sitting there in the flight deck and I just spray my hands and passenger walks by and says, I smell alcohol.
Yeah, but there's a difference between isopropyl alcohol
there's a big difference there.
Ethyl alcohol.
It's not gonna.
Sure.
It's not gonna
Which
come
is
back
better
positive.
to drink?
Yes, the ethyl,
Don't
not
drink
the
that one.
isopropyl.
Unless you want to be blind. So
Yeah, if you like being, well, I think Nick might be halfway there, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, why? What do you got? One eye? Oh.
Hey, I know we're in the midst of this particular piece of feedback by Alex, and he has a couple of more questions here. But before we answer the rest of his feedback, I would like to play some audio feedback from the Flying Kiwi before Dr. Steph leaves, because I know she's about to leave us very soon, right?
I am in about 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, so I thought, it's been a while since I remember and that I listened to this feedback, but I think it has something to do with health and fitness. And so with that, let's hear from Lucas, the Flying Kiwi.
Hey, APG, it's the Flying Kiwi here. It's been a while since you heard from me, but still don't have my medical. Still trying to lose some weight and get a bit fitter and stuff, so I passed it with flying colours, but I have booked my sleep study appointment, and it's going to help me out. I've got a blocked nose today, which doesn't help because it's a bit of a hay fever because it's sort of summer here and there's pollen flying around, so I think I'll wait for that to clear before I get any sleep study. But it's interesting. I've been thinking about this whole medical thing since my medical has been in jeopardy. And I've been thinking about how airline pilots, how worrying it is for me just as a private pilot, let alone for you guys. And I'm only trying to get a Class 2. I had a Class 1, but I just couldn't be bothered keeping up with all the requirements. And I'm a fairly healthy guy. I do my own cooking, and I try and eat well. And I've lost 10 kg in the last 2 months to try and bring myself under 100 kg, so I'm now 90, or just over 90 kg. I have no idea what that is in pounds, because we use proper measurements in this country. But I was wondering how you guys sort of keep up with your fitness. Dr. Steph, would just take her out of the equation. Marathon runner. Enough said. It's kind of funny because I sort of sit between Dana and Nick in my physique, so I'm a fairly tall dude, knocking 6 foot, and I'm pretty heavy set, and I'm also as bald as they come because I shave my head. So as much as I'd like to have Steph's stomach and Jeff's mustache, I'm sort of between those two guys. But yeah, I'm just interested to hear what your regime is. I know Nick and Jeff, you guys get out walking a lot, especially Nick with the dogs, which is great. I try to do that with my dogs. But is there any sort of, when you're sitting down to lunch, you're sort of thinking, oh, should I have the hamburger or should I have the salad? How much of it sort of plays on your mind? I've had quite a few dealings with the CAA, medically speaking, and talked to a few other people about it, and heard how people have lost some of the privileges of their licenses due to medical reasons. And I don't know, maybe as I get a bit older and a bit more mortal, I'm thinking about it a lot more as well. So it'd be really interesting to hear sort of how it affects your thinking around eating and exercise, being a pilot. That would be really great to hear your perspectives, and Dr. Steph's too. Although we know her crazy predilection for exercise. Anyway, Flying Kiwis out. Thanks for the great show, guys.
Thank you. Oh, that's enough. Stop. Bye. Thank you for the audio. We have another piece of audio from Lucas the Flying Kiwi as well. And, I don't think we can, completely rule Steph out, because even though she is very physically fit and runs marathons and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure she has some advice.
I do. And I think it comes down to anyone who's got a busy schedule. Our professional pilots on the panel will have a lot to say in terms of how it weighs into their schedules, whether you're more like Captain Jeff and have a relatively more regular schedule, one that you have a lot more control over, where you basically know where you're going to have free time to be able to build in your exercise routine, or whether it's a little bit more up in the air, or if a lot of time zones are being crossed, that type of thing. I'm sure they'll have great insight for us there. But from my standpoint, and I talk to a lot of my patients about this too, because everyone's got busy lives these days, right? Like no one has an hour here or there, for the most part, just lying around where they can go to the gym or go for a run or a swim or whatever it is that you like to do for exercise, take your dogs for a walk. But it's still really important to build that time in for yourself. I'm a big proponent of taking care of yourself first, especially when it comes to exercise and your own health, because that's a foundation of everything you do in life. So you need to make that time for yourself. Not everyone's going to have the same amount of time to put into it or invest in it. But it doesn't take as much as most people think. When you're first starting to get into it, especially if you weren't doing it previously in terms of exercise, I think starting off slowly, so maybe 30 minutes at a time, maybe a couple days a week, just to get used to the idea of doing exercise and doing something that's relatively less strenuous. So walking is a good way to start. Light weights are a good way to start. Always checking with your doctor first to make sure that you're safe to do the type of exercise that you're wanting to get into is a great idea. Yes, Jeff. I see you shaking your head there.
I meant yes.
Yes,
good,
of course.
Good advice.
And then you can always build from there. And I'll just tell you my routine for going to the gym, because it's not as easy as I think a lot of people, especially some of my patients and coworkers, think it might be. But if I'm going to the gym, the way I work it into my schedule, I have to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning to get it in for the day. So that means I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning or a little bit earlier so that I can get all my stuff together, have a bite to eat, get out of the house, get to the gym, finish up at a reasonable time at the gym. Usually I spend about an hour, and usually about twice a week actually at the gym, so that I can get back to work on time. So nothing too crazy there, I don't think. I split that up between doing different types of light weights and various stretching and yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates type exercises as well. I generally try to run. This year's a little bit different, so I won't go into that yet. But what I've done in the past is about 3 days a week, 2 or 3 days a week, usually a shorter medium run during the week and a longer run on the weekends, and then progressively longer as I'm doing any type of marathon training. So it's not a ton of time that I'm putting into it, but you definitely have to carve out the time, and it's going to be a little different for everyone's schedule. And pilots are no different in that regard. So
that's it. Thought you'd have more.
Is that all?
That's it.
You could do something crazy. You could do something crazy like I ended up doing, Lucas, over the Christmas holidays. I don't, again, still not sure exactly how it happened. It's kind of all a whirlwind. in my memory, but I ended up signing up for a gym, and then the very next day actually signing up for personal training, which I call torture, physical torture. And I'm still doing it. And in fact, last night I ended up going to a PT session, and this young lady she's masochistic. Is that the word? Yeah, it was not an easy workout, and it's really, really pressing and pushing me, which is really what I need, because if I don't have somebody, there making me do this stuff, I probably wouldn't do it. And since I'm paying a good amount of money every month to have somebody make me feel really bad, I probably wouldn't do it. But I am noticing, that a little bit, that my body's changing a little bit, and the more I do this, the less it hurts. And so I'm hoping that I'll continue the routine for the entire year, because I've basically committed myself to pay for the entire year. So,
and I will say this, though, it does take a little bit of sacrifice, because certainly there are other things I'd rather be doing when I'm actually at the gym and working out. Usually it's sleeping.
No, Steph, I think that you're the kind of person that probably really enjoys it.
I do, but I'd also rather be sleeping.
Yeah.
So I like my sleep just as much as I like getting up and going to the gym, to be honest.
And the eating and drinking part for me is tough, because I really love eating and drinking, and I'm really, really making an effort to cut down on the amount of beer that I'm drinking and other alcoholic beverages, because I think that the less that I consume in that department, it'll be easier for me and my body to get to where it needs to be physically.
Yeah, that's another side of it altogether, and it probably gets away. I mean, that's another challenge for pilots in general. I think anyone who's traveling a lot and in airports and hotels for, a good part of the week. I could probably say a whole lot on that subject as well. But go ahead.
Like Jeff, I've been working out with a trainer for a very long time, coming up on 6 years now. I work out on a fairly regular basis, and I'm still a big guy. I recently, in the past, before you guys met me, I was a bit skinnier, because I started eating very healthy and stopped drinking anything other than, what I drink normally is water. I don't drink any carbonated fruit type of beverages at all. And then, the alcohol is a big factor on it. Again, I don't drink beer, which has a higher loaf of bread content than straight hard alcohol, but still straight out hard alcohol has its calorie content and carbohydrate content. So as of recent, since the beginning of the year, I've really haven't. After the cruise, I said no more. I'm really staying away from it. I don't need to drink, and never have needed to drink, and prefer not to drink a whole lot anyways. So I'm already starting to lose some weight and seeing some of the effects, and my body feels better. But as a road warrior, as a pilot, we are exposed to not such good food. A lot of it is the highly processed food, even if you try to eat healthy. So I'm a perfect example of somebody that really does try to watch what they eat, try to work out, but yet I still have a large girth. And just a lot of it's genetics. I mean, I come from my father at my age, where I'm at right now, had already had his first heart attack and was about probably a good 100 pounds heavier than me. Fortunately, I haven't had a heart attack, and I don't anticipate on having a heart attack, because I'm on top of my health. So, as long as if you're as big, if you're a bigger person, it tends to be just genetics. And if you try to take care of yourself, you can be healthy and be a larger frame person. So I just try to eat as healthy as I can. I stay away from breads. I stay away from carbohydrates, like white rices, anything that's white, sugar, breads and rice and pastas on the overnights. But I'm like Jeff. I'm a foodie. I mean, I was just in places when I go on overnights. I love to taste local cuisine, local place. I mentioned Baltimore, one of the best restaurants, I think.
La Scala.
La Scala, probably one of the best restaurants I've ever have been to on overnights. The food is just fantastic, and so I'll splurge every once in a while, but I don't eat like that on a regular basis, and it's hard on us. And a big piece of that, and they keep on coming up with this is sleep. Sleep for getting your metabolism to kick in, for you to be able to lose weight. And we are, as I don't know how you are, Jeff and Nick, on the road, but different bed, different night, different sounds in the rooms, everything. I don't necessarily always sleep great, and because of that, that affects my ability to lose weight as well. So,
my sleep is good because after drinking 2 6-packs of beer, I just I hit the pillow and I'm out.
You're done, yeah.
But I feel like crap the next day. I don't know why, because I got a lot of sleep. Oh, just kidding, of course.
Yeah.
I was going to say I didn't used to drink a lot either, Dana, until I came on this show and Jeff drove me.
That show drives you to drink.
Exactly.
I get that.
Okay, well, I'm going to become a teetotaler now, so.
I think the point is, everything in moderation, right? So whether that's exercise, whether that's the type of food that you're eating, you can go crazy on all of that stuff, but you want to do something that's sustainable over the long term, and that is healthy as well. So it's okay to have the occasional day where you don't do anything terribly physically active, or the occasional day where you have, you go out to eat at a nice restaurant and maybe overindulge a little bit, but you want to make sure that you have more good days than bad days in that regard. So.
Right. TWA 88T, I forgot who exactly that person is, says avoid airport food, and this person takes their food with them in a refrigerated kind of a bag, and I'd consider doing something like that if I didn't have all this podcasting equipment I'd lug around, but.
Well, I said that last week, actually, Jeff, because we were talking about the Focusrite box. I mean, I don't bring that because I kind of limit it. I've been limiting my space in my bag because I'm bringing my own food. I try to bring as much food as I can, but that's only when I'm flying. When I'm at the overnight, I'm still going to go out because I'm not that person that likes to slam click. I like to be sociable.
Right.
But, it makes it a little more difficult when you're not drinking. The last guy I flew with last week, all he wanted to do was go to the beer garden and beer this and beer that. And I'm like, you know what? Not only does it not have good food, I'm just not going to drink. So I'm sorry. I'm going to go such and such and enjoy myself. So, I just... the problem is when you go out to restaurants, they want you to like their food. And when you talk about liking your food, well, they're going to put whatever they need to put into it, i.e. lots of salt, lots of seasoning, lots of fat into the food to make sure it tastes good. And, a salad isn't a meal to me. Salad is eating vegetables. But I like to eat a good square some type of protein with lots of cooked vegetables, and preferably not soaked in olive oil and all the butter and all that other stuff. So that's hard to get. It's hard to get reliably on the road.
Yeah.
With no salt.
Anything to add from our long haul representative?
No.
Okay.
I've managed to get through 24 years of it by eating a combination of good stuff at home because my wife's a great cook. I limit my food on the airplane. I do tend to have a beer or two down route, but everything in moderation. So nothing's killed me yet.
Excellent. Well, I think it was great advice. And thank you, Steph, for helping us answer that before you take off, which I think you're going to do right now.
Yeah, I think I need to say goodbye for this episode. I'm sorry.
You're a pilot. You're going to take off.
I'm going to take off right here. Watch.
All right. Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us.
To see you, Steph.
For as long as you could.
Great to see you, Steph.
Yeah, good to see you guys too. Have a great rest
Pats.
of the show. Go
Burn
Eagles.
that hat.
Don't forget
maybe I should clarify that I'm not the world's biggest Philadelphia Eagles fan, but
you're a bandwagoner.
Well, just based on who there's a choice, one or the other this weekend. So
it's a choice of two.
That's right. Sorry.
And don't forget to turn off your recorder.
Thank you. Yes, because you don't want another 48-hour
Yeah,
recording.
that was a little long. Yeah. Okay.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right.
Cheers, Steph.
Bye, Steph.
Steph. Have fun.
All right. Now she's gone. We can talk about her.
We can say all
Yeah,
types of
I
great
know.
things.
All that good advice. Geez, that was how I had to turn it off because I was just getting so embarrassed here.
I was starting to get hungry, actually.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So she does Tai Chi as well and yoga and God, dummy. Is there anything she doesn't do that's good for you? Oh, chicken nuggets. Of course. We didn't
She
actually
drinks
get
that.
onto the chicken nuggets, did we?
Didn't what?
Didn't get on to Steph's love of chicken nuggets.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that until you just mentioned it.
So I'm going, hang on a minute, young lady.
And I've seen her drink a beer or two. Or
Oh,
three.
she's seen her drink you under the table.
She does. Yeah. But all in moderation for most of the time.
Yes. Except when you're around.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm a bad influence or something.
Yep.
Let's see. Going back to Alex's feedback. Question 2. I flew recently on the Plastic Fantastic 787-900. Plastic Fantastic. To be honest, it was okay and did not get the wow. Like the wow. I mean, like this.
Wow.
Like taking the A380 for the first time. It seems to me that Acme Red has issues with this plane. Question mark. Every time I go past one at Heathrow, their engine covers are open. So what are the issues on the fleet? And we've talked about this in previous shows. It's really the issues with Rolls-Royce's engines, apparently.
Yeah, the Trent 1000 have got a problem with their blade longevity of their blades, and with the coatings on them, a few blocked heating elements. You know, they have the blades are hollow and they've got rings of holes up near the leading edge that they blow air through to cool the blades, which is how they manage to run them at such high temperatures and make them so efficient. So there are a variety of problems which are in fixes are all in the pipeline. In fact, the latest versions will be coming out. But in the meantime, they're, of course, Rolls is trying to build new engines for the new aircraft coming out, as well as recondition all the ones that are having problems. So it's just a matter of they just can't do it in time, and so some of the aircraft are being ground.
Yeah, I'm sure that eventually they'll get all caught up and everything will be running smoothly.
I mean, there's not an aircraft in the world that hasn't come into service without a few problems. But I think the 787, whether it be their batteries or the engines or various other little hiccups, has had its fair share. That's for sure.
Sure has. And then question number 3, seatbelt sign for turbulence. When do you turn it on? I've noticed in the last year or so, the smallest shake gets the seatbelt light turned on. So what's the policy? Captain discretion? Have you ever used it to get people to sit down because of disturbance in the cabin or just too many people walking around? He goes on to say, thanks again for a great show. Here a curveball. Let's hope this year, the year when the 747 finally goes to the scrapyard and history books. Let's see, episode 242, I spoke of my lack of love for the 747, much to Jeff and Rick's shock. I will leave you with a final... Oh, I'll tell you what, we'll save that for the very end. We'll answer this seatbelt sign question first, I guess. So it is the captain's discretion as to when the seatbelt light gets turned on, and there are some captains that turn it on for just a little burble. And then there are some that, wait until it's relatively significant before they turn it on because, and then you have to remember to turn it back off again. So that's one of the hard things for us is that, we'll perhaps turn it on at the appropriate time, but then because it's been on for a while, we might forget that we still have it on. And then I've had flights where I've looked up and the flight's almost over and I never ever turned it off from the top of climb. So we're humans and we normally remember to turn off the light or turn it on at the right time. But as far as my experience, it's captain discretion. How about with your company, Nick?
Yeah, it's definitely just down to the captain. Of course, I've actually been back in the cabin when the belts come on. So actually, it's whoever's at the controls at the time. So, but they always say the captain has chosen to put the seat on. I'm standing there going,
I did not. I am the captain. I did not choose to do that.
Exactly right. So I noticed there is some people are very quick to put it on, which is obviously the safest option, because if someone does fall over and you didn't have them on, there's always that possibility that they might litigate against the airline for not giving them warning. But of course, if you use them too much, then people are just going to get up anyway.
Right.
And it becomes an irrelevant notice. I like people to take note of it when I put it on. So I put it on when I think it's required. And what I try and do is imagine my 80-year-old granny, not that I have one anymore, trying to make her way up the aisle to go use the restroom. And I think, well, if she would have problems staying on her feet, then that's that's the time the belts need to go on, not when some fit bloke is going, oh, this is hardly moving. But you've got to think of everyone that might be on board, whether it be a toddler or a peacock or an old lady. So that's it. There's another bit there. You ever put it on to get people to sit down because of a disturbance in the cabin? Well, the cabin crew have been known to say they've got an awful lot of people around the bar. It would be really nice if we could just get some of them to sit down because they're being a bit noisy and they're keeping passengers trying to sleep awake, that sort of thing. Or down the back end, we got a whole bunch of people in the rear galley. We can't get on with our work. And to a certain extent, I feel a little bit exasperated because the bar and the free areas on the aircraft are there to be used by the passengers who paid the money. And it's not putting the seatbelt sign on for the convenience of the crew is definitely not in my list of good things to do. But if it obviously becomes a safety concern, then I will consider it. But it's really something I do not like doing. People pay a lot of money to come on Acme Red. They enjoy the facilities we have for them. And if you deny them that by putting the seatbelt signs on all the time when it's not really required, then that's very poor customer relations. So I always bear that in mind. And not everyone else in the aircraft has the same opinion because they're not always thinking from the same point of view as me.
No, I like the way you're thinking about that. It would be hard for me to do that as well. Thinking that, okay, well, I'm putting it on not really for the reason it's supposed to be on.
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, I almost feel like I'm defrauding the passengers a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's not the whole point. The point is it's there for safety.
Yep. Okay. Anything to add, Dana?
No, I mean, it's as you said, it's captain's discretion. There are times as a first officer that I'll try to back the captain up. If I notice the seatbelt sign, like you mentioned from top, from the whole flight that you forgot to turn it off. If I see it's on, I'll say, Captain, do you still want the seatbelt sign? Do you really want that on? Or Captain, I think it's getting a little bumpy. That one I normally don't have to say. It's more usually, Captain, pretty smooth here. Do you want to leave him seated? So just
kind of a friendly CRM reminder.
Yeah, that's it.
You still have the seatbelt on, you idiot.
Yeah,
Captain, what do you think? You think it's smooth enough for them to get up now?
Exactly. That's the way I approach it. I mean, and usually it's when we get to top of climb. I noticed at Acme, most of the captains, I don't know why, because it says there that the captain will make the PA on the initial descent, but first officers usually a pilot not flying or whoever's the pilot not flying is supposed to be making the initial welcome on board announcement. But it seems like captains always want to do it. So whatever. But at that point is when I normally will say, Captain, do you want to leave the seatbelt sign on or want to make a PA with everybody still seated? So that's the gentle way of being proactive.
Right.
As a first officer.
And over time, I've become less sensitive to like turning the seatbelt light on every time I felt like a little bit of a tiny bit of turbulence, because of the reasons that we were just talking about. You know, where people go, they look up and it's always on, so now it's losing its effectiveness, and everybody just assumes that the captain forgot to turn it off, and I'm going to get up anyway, and I'm going to ignore that seatbelt line on. So I try to be a little bit more tolerant of a certain level of chop and turbulence before I turn it on, just because, you know, I try to get people out of that rut of feeling like it's always going to be on and it really has no meaning to me anymore.
Oh, and I'll never forget this flight as long as I live. I flew from as a jump seater. I flew from Atlanta to San Francisco and Acme, and the entire flight, the seatbelt, regardless of whether it's smooth or bumpy, the seatbelt light was never turned off on a 5-hour flight. And I got up a couple times, go to the restroom in full uniform, mind you, and the flight attendant reminded me the seatbelt sign's on. I looked at her, I said to her, I'm in uniform. I'm a crew member. I'm going to go ahead and get up and go to the bathroom, but that seatbelt sign shouldn't really be on right now. And she gave me a lot of grief about it because the second time I got up, she said the same thing to me. And I looked at her and I said to her, there's really no reason for that seatbelt sign to be on. So the pilot in command on that flight never, on a 5-hour flight, turned the seatbelt sign off. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's an anomaly, I think.
It is an anomaly, but
yeah,
still.
I'm glad to say it is. But I have experienced exactly the same, and it frustrates the hell out of me. Because you know, particularly if you're in economy and you're on a long haul flight, and someone leaves the belts on for an extremely long time, then you know, people are just ignoring it, and they're starting to get stuff out of the overheads, all that kind of stuff, and that can be very dangerous if there is a chance of turbulence. But more likely, they're doing it for somebody else's convenience, and I'm going, that's not what I'm paying money to be here for.
Right. Christian in the chat room makes a good point. We're learning more about Christian now. He's a 777 pilot. He said that the thing is, when it's been smooth for a while and I switch the seatbelt light off, that's exactly when it starts jumping again. And that's so true. It's like without fail, you're going, okay. And I usually look over at the first officer and say, what do you think? You think it's going to be okay now? Oh, yeah. So I turn it. Of course, you know, they don't care. I turn it off. And then immediately, the airplane starts shaking. Right.
Now, I've got a trick. I try and trick the airplane. So I reach up and pretend to turn it. I just give it a little stroke and go, yeah, I'm going to turn it off now. And just to see if it's going to start bumping again. And if the airplane leaves it smooth, then I'll turn it on.
Reverse psychology.
Exactly right. By the way, I for those in the chat room, I've just put up a little cartoon on my video image there, which is actually one that came with this feedback. So I don't know why it's with the feedback, but I thought it was worth sharing.
Yes, and we're going to get that here in a second.
Okay.
Well, let's just do it right now. That's enough of the turbulence. Let's see. I will leave you with this final 747 thought. Louise Griffin knows from Family Guy. Spooky, how similar. So, again, if you're watching the video, and if not, check out the show notes, and then you'll see this image of Louise, who is Peter Griffin's very lovely animated wife. And in this case, she's in a little bikini. But the whole point of this is the shape of her nose, the way the cartoonist draws Louise's nose, reminds Alex, the Boeing hater, of the 747 nose, apparently.
Now that's interesting, actually. Yes.
Yes.
And I wasn't what I was looking at. But,
yeah.
I noticed she only had 3 fingers. I was trying to work out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Attention to detail. How about that? 3 fingers and a thumb. Maybe the pinky is just out of view. I don't know.
No. It's common. If you look at Simpsons, they've all got 3 fingers.
Oh, okay. I've never noticed that. All right. Well, Alex, I hope that we answered your questions. And let's see, we've been going almost for 2 hours now. I think this might be a good time for us to play this week's installment of Plane Tales by the Old Pilot. Here we go.
The old pilot's plain tales, fighting high demons.
At 6'4", Flight Lieutenant Ted Powles was a bit big for a Spitfire. He had joined the Royal Air Force as an apprentice during the Second World War and then trained as a photo reconnaissance pilot. However, when hostilities ceased, he was given the opportunity to remain a serving officer and promoted to the rank of flying officer. In 1950, he was a bit surprised when he was posted to RAF Finningley to do a refresher course on the Spitfire PR-14, and then up to RAF Lucas to fly the PR-19 in both high and low altitude recce sorties. Someone obviously had a plan for him, because after a few months he was posted out to the Far East, to RAF Tenga in Singapore to be precise. Here he performed PR sorties in Spitfire FR-18s as part of Operation Firedog, also known as the Malayan Emergency, which was the defense of Malaysia from communist guerrillas. Ted flew recce and strike sorties, but just before Christmas 1950 he was taken aside by his CO and given a rather intriguing assignment. Along with Flight Sergeant Padden, he was told to take a couple of Spitfires down to RAF Kai Tak in Hong Kong. There was no explanation of his duties. It was all a bit cloak and dagger. There was no official briefing. Powles was quietly asked by a photographic interpreter if he could take some photos of the Chinese mainland and some islands. Under Mao Zedong, China was aggressively pursuing its objectives in Korea and elsewhere. The British commanders were concerned for the security of Hong Kong and other areas of interest in the region, so good intelligence was essential, such as the state of play on Hainan Island, which had fallen into communist hands in the summer of 1950. So, without formal orders, written or otherwise, Powles authorized himself and began flying sorties over Chinese territory in his Spitfire. After some 16 trips flown within about 100 miles of Hong Kong, he received his most difficult request. Did he mind having a go at photographing the island of Hainan, in particular the airfield and dock area? Hainan was at the extreme range of the PR-19, but after looking at the mission carefully, he thought it could be done. Because he was going to fly a total of around 800 nautical miles over the ocean, Ted asked if he might have the assistance of a US destroyer and an RAF Sunderland in case he came down in the South China Sea. Accurate weather forecasts were not easy to come by, but on May the 21st, 1951, he took off in his Spitfire, Papa Sierra 852, turned southwest and climbed up over the ocean. At 30,000 feet, the weather started off good, but he noticed the cloud building up to the west over the northern part of Hainan Island. He called Turin, also known as Da Nang, on the east coast of Vietnam, beyond Hainan Island, pretending to be an American, asking for a weather report. This was a planned transmission, intended really to inform his Sunderland and the destroyer escort that he was starting his photo run. He wasn't supposed to come below 30,000 feet, but he had to go lower to get into clear air. Turning his cameras on, he started his planned runs, but there had been a considerable growth in the size of his targets, and he realized he would need an additional run to cover the whole area. On this third run, he spotted the glint of the sun from a couple of approaching Chinese fighters on an intercept course from the north. Keeping an eye on the fighters, he patiently completed his final pass before opening up the throttle of his powerful Rolls-Royce Griffon engine and headed for home. Climbing up to 36,000 feet, he lost the Chinese fighters, and once he was sure he was in the clear, he throttled back to an economical cruise. As he assessed his situation, he realized that his unplanned third photo run had left him worryingly short of fuel. He descended to a lower, more economic level and worked out that he only had 5 minutes of spare fuel. As he ate up the miles, the weather began to worsen, and now in cloud he began to ice up. A further descent was needed to get out of the icing, which would further increase his fuel consumption. Finally, he came within range of Kai Tak, and he obtained a steer towards Victoria Peak. With the overcast cloud only 1,800 feet over the airfield and running dangerously short of fuel, he started a continuous descent. A request for the closest runway, 31, was denied because of a strong crosswind, and he was given the much shorter runway, 07. Overshoots on 07 were forbidden because of the buildings and mountains beyond, but he was so short of fuel he didn't think that was going to be a problem. With his fuel gauge resting on empty, he descended over Kowloon Bay, lowering his undercarriage. He was about to drop his flaps when his engine coughed and then failed, his propeller stopping dead in the air. He was completely out of fuel. Powles had kept a bit of speed and height in hand to dead stick the aircraft, but even so, he realized he wasn't going to make the runway. With amazing skill, he eked out every ounce of performance from his beautiful Spitfire and made it as far as the grass in the undershoot. He bounced once and landed neatly on the runway. He'd been airborne for 3.5 hours. Despite that desperately close call, a few months later, Ted was asked to repeat his feat and head off again for Hainan. He flew his favorite aircraft, Papa Sierra 852, and again the weather made his life difficult. This time it was the winds, as after he finished his runs over the island, he turned back into an unexpectedly strong headwind. Making his calculations, he eyed up his fuel gauge, and with 200 miles left to fly, he only had 50 gallons left. Carefully planning his approach, he positioned himself for runway 13 at Kai Tak, and for a second time he sucked his fuel tank dry on final approach. With a little more height in hand this time, and with nothing but the whistling sound of the slipstream instead of the throaty grumble of his Griffin, he safely made the runway, with enough speed to gently turn left and taxi off. By the end of 1951, Ted Powles had flown 63 photo reconnaissance sorties over Chinese territory. Amazingly, he was given a special briefing for only 4 of these sorties, and each time he was reminded that he had no authority to carry out the flight, and that if anything happened, he was on his own. For these flights, Flight Lieutenant Powles was awarded the Air Force Cross with the following citation. This officer, even when flying at altitude, often over the sea, alone in a single-seater aircraft, has always shown the greatest determination to complete his mission, although this entailed returning to base with his fuel almost exhausted. He has repeatedly earned high praise for his skill, courage, and high standard of airmanship. As nerve-wracking as his clandestine missions over China were, it wasn't this that brought Ted's career to an early close. It was a much more dramatic incident. It was now 1952, and Ted was conducting high-level meteorological missions to gain data on the upper atmosphere for the proposed Comet jetliner service between England and Japan. He closed the canopy and switched on his oxygen before takeoff. Once airborne at 160 knots with 9 pounds per square inch boost at 2600 RPM over the colony of Hong Kong in a wide left-hand circuit, he climbed to 30,000 feet, noting the outside air temperature to be minus 30.20 centigrade. Continuing the climb in his powerful Mark 19 Spitfire, taking measurements as he went, he reached 40,000 feet, where the outside air temperature was minus 53.8. but he was disappointed that he had not experienced any turbulence or drift caused by high winds. The visibility was unusually good. There was not a cloud in the sky. By the time he reached 45,000 feet, where the outside temperature was minus 63.4, he had reduced his indicated airspeed to 140 knots. When Ted's altimeter indicated 48,500 feet, that's 50,000 feet true altitude, the temperature was minus 70.4, and his indicated airspeed was back at 120 knots. The controls of the Spitfire were very sensitive in the thin air at this altitude, and most of the time he was forced to fly on instruments. As everything seemed to be functioning normally, and as he had a little spare time, he decided to see if he could get the aircraft to 50,000 feet indicated. Increasing the Griffin's RPM to 2,700, he raised the nose of the Mark 19, reducing the indicated airspeed to 115 knots. To keep climbing, he eventually had to reduce the speed to 110 knots, and by the time he crept his altimeter to 50,000 feet, the airspeed was 108 knots and the boost less than zero. The controls of the aircraft were now extremely sensitive. The nose was high, and flying the Spitfire was a balancing act. He had to constantly make slight adjustments to maintain equilibrium. Ted described what he saw.
The sky above appeared black, and the visibility was so good I could see from the Chinese island of Hainan to the southwest, all along the coast of China to the island of Formosa. To the east-northeast, along Pearl River, the city and airfield of Canton appeared to be just under my starboard wing. The view was breathtaking. It was like a giant map, and I could see the curvature of the earth. I knew I was flying on the very edge of the performance envelope for the Spitfire, and I felt exhilarated and yet quite tense as I scanned my instruments for any sign of deviation from the norm. With the appropriate corrections applied, my Dalton calculator indicated that my true height was 51,550 feet.
At the time, that was a world record for a piston-powered aircraft. He glanced into the cockpit, just in time to catch the cockpit pressurization red warning light illuminate. He knew he would have to descend quickly to prevent a dangerous and painful case of the bends. He instinctively eased the stick forward and pulled back on the power to prevent overspeeding the propeller. Ted looked around at the cockpit to see if the canopy seal had burst when the Spitfire started to shake. Glancing in, he saw his airspeed at 280 knots, well above the maximum speed above 40,000 feet. Pulling back on the control column, he was shocked to see his dive steepen, and the harder he pulled, the steeper it got. The Spit was now shaking violently, and the instrument panel was unreadable. In a vertical dive, Ted was standing on the rudder pedals, and the stick felt like it was stuck in concrete, completely immovable. He worried that if he pulled any harder, something would break. Beside the vibration, the aircraft was yawing from side to side. It felt as though a giant hand was shaking it. Ted thought that if he couldn't pull out of the dive, maybe he could trim it out. As he reached for the trimmer, he noticed that mist had formed over the wings, and he wondered whatever might be causing that. Worried that the trim tabs might force the elevators into a position where they would fail, he remembered reading about a test pilot who had encountered a similar problem. He reasoned that he was close to the speed of sound, and the center of pressure on the wings had moved back so far that he was experiencing reversal of control. Taking his life into his hands, Ted tried pushing on the stick instead of pulling, reasoning that at the worst he might be able to bunt out of the dive. The Spitfire was thundering downwards like a runaway horse, but using both hands he began to push, shouting at his aircraft to
Let go, damn it, let go!
After many long seconds, the vibration began to lessen. The yawing stopped and the mist cleared from over the wings. The nose was coming up, but as Ted felt the stiff controls start to move again and the controls began to free up, the nose stopped rising and began to drop again. So Ted immediately reversed the pressure and started to pull out. He placed his feet in the top stirrups on the rudder bar and began to heave out of the dive until he was in danger of blacking out, so he eased off. Having survived this far, he couldn't risk becoming unconscious. He checked his airspeed. He was still doing over 500 knots, and he was now down to nearly 3,000 feet. A look at his stopwatch showed that he had descended over 48,000 feet in less than a minute. His carburetors had frozen, so the only way to increase power was to up the boost, and his canopy was iced up and stuck in position. Finding it hard to see out, he flew back on instruments until his chilled aircraft warmed up. He hoped that he hadn't overstressed his favorite machine too much, little realizing that he was the one most stressed. Climbing out, his flying suit was soaking wet right through to his Mae West. His gloves, even his socks, were dripping. His friends came running up, wondering what had happened as Ted stood by his aircraft as white as a sheet. He thought he might have gone supersonic, but it was later calculated that he had only reached an estimated but unverified 600 knots, which was around Mach decimal 96, but still an unbelievable speed for a piston aircraft. Ted carried on flying his high-level sorties, but he began to feel unwell. As he climbed into the thin upper atmosphere, he started suffering from flu-like symptoms, sweats and aches, and when he descended again, a feeling of euphoric relief would wash over him. The engineers checked out his aircraft, and Ted went to see the medical officer, but neither his aircraft nor his body showed any visible problems. The strange symptoms he was feeling became more severe and started happening at lower and lower altitudes, but nobody really had any idea what was happening. Ted knew nothing about psychology, and the medical officers didn't seem to either. It became increasingly hard for him to complete his missions, and Ted realized it was time to quit flying. He was given a complete medical examination, and it was discovered that the sight in one of his eyes was below the required level, so his medical was quietly downgraded to let him work behind a desk until he retired from the Royal Air Force. In later life, with his wife, Dr. Marie Powles, he moved to Arden, North Carolina, where he passed away in 2008.
Another beautifully told tale.
Right, very kind, very kind. Thanks, Jim.
Indeed, very good.
Interesting little story that just came across it by accident. But
wow.
The thing I liked about it was the fact that I didn't realize that we were flying spy missions over China. That was the first thing. And the second thing was this remarkable event in his Spitfire, and the fact that the damned airplane held together. I mean, he was right in the transonic region. And of course, this theory about control reversal, well, it had been proven to happen in roll occasionally, but that was more to do with torsional twisting of the wings, overcoming the effect of the aileron. In pitch, probably not, but it was a well-known thing. A lot of pilots thought it happened around this period. In fact, I think afterwards they decided probably not, and the pushing had little effect. But the fact was that as he came lower through the atmosphere, the speed of sound, of course, changes, and the chances are the center of pressure moved back forward over his wings, giving the aircraft the chance to pull out. But the thing that attracted me to the story, of course, was that this one flight affected him mentally so severely that he started getting these symptoms of anxiety, which people didn't really know much about then, as he tried to go back up into the same high-level environment. And so, it was a form of mental illness that and the nice way, the nice way that his friends in the Air Force managed to deal with it. They found another problem for him that allowed him to step away from flying, which I thought was a gracious way to let a brave guy finish his career.
Yes, they kept his honor intact.
Exactly right.
I guess
because
it
in
kind of
those
sounds
days,
like PTSD almost, post-traumatic stress disorder.
I'm certain that's what we would have classified it as nowadays, Jeff. Exactly right.
Wow, what a great story.
Thanks.
And a testament to the way that Spitfire was built. As you
Oh,
say.
golly, yes. I mean, we're talking about the early jet age, but we forget just how goddamn powerful those last generation of huge warbirds, how good they were. I mean, obviously, you guys had a whole bunch more, which you even carried forward into the Vietnam War. But the Spitfire was probably one of our best and last.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to some more feedback. Clinton sent this. He says, "Hey guys, I was wondering what you all thought about the new Fox show, LA to Vegas. The slapstick comedy side of me loves it. I wonder, though, how many people that watch it actually know what goes on behind the door. Love the podcast. Definitely have the syndrome. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one." Have you either of you two seen LA to Vegas?
I have not myself. No, I haven't.
I've seen like the first episode, the pilot, and then because the first episode is called the pilot, has nothing to do with piloting, and part of the second, and it's cute. I'm not sure it's going to be good enough to really last, like for another season or whatever. But it's funny. It's as you said, very slapstick and very outrageous and provocative.
By the way, that does remind me. Thanks for the recommendation to watch the Orville. That I am watching, and I eagerly wait the next one that comes out. That's great.
Me too.
Fun.
Me too. Yeah, that's a fun show. Yeah, so if you're a listener out there and have seen LA to Vegas, let us know what you think about it. Let's see. Glenn wrote about this. Now, earlier we had talked about problems with altimetry and the proper setting of such instruments. And this is something that he sent us. He said, "I thought this might be good for the show. Only in Russia would the crew ignore all the warnings." There we go again. Glenn is anti-Russian, apparently. Anyway, the incident occurred on the 25th of January, I guess, so relatively recent. A BAE 125, which I think is very similar to, or perhaps the predecessor of the Hawker 800. And I'm not sure what company originally made it. Wasn't it Hawker Siddeley or
Hawker Siddeley would have made the original, and then they were absorbed by British Aerospace, so it became one of their, a bit like the way Boeing takes over everybody.
There you go. They're not the first ones, I guess.
No.
Pilots of an executive jet failed to set their altimeter to the correct pressure level before the aircraft descended low enough to collide with trees, investigators in Russia have determined. The crew allowed the BAE 125-800 to continue descending despite automated warnings, and the aircraft suffered substantial damage from the collision some 18 kilometers from the airport before the pilots aborted the approach. Let's see. The jet had departed Tyumen, bound for Nurjungry Cholman Airport on June 5th. Oh, this happened in summer of 2016, June 2016. It had been conducting the approach at night and had been following the Rugal 2 pattern, which involved flying southeast before turning left onto the 083 degree heading for runway 8. The crew initially had difficulty contacting the local Schulman Air Traffic Center on 129.7 megahertz and instead reached the regional Nurjungry Center on 121.7. The center, upon the crew's request, cleared the flight to descend to flight level 90, 2,750 meters, before transferring the aircraft to Chilman Tower Control. The tower confirmed the transition level as 2,450 meters and the airfield pressure, QFE, as 685 millimeters of mercury, and allowed the aircraft to descend to 500 meters ahead of its turn towards the runway approach heading. As the jet descended, the tower asked the crew to confirm the QFE setting. While the crew replied with the correct number, 685, they needed to convert this to millibars, which would have resulted in a QFE of 913 millibars. So the setting was given in 1 unit, millimeters of mercury, and they, I guess, mistook that for millibars. Instead,
I don't know if that's possible, Jeff, because you can't get an altimeter down to 685 millibars. So if you tried to dial in 685, it wouldn't go that low. I don't know what the lowest, the average altimeter is. It will rarely go down below the low 800s.
Mm-hmm.
So, 850 or 830, but just because the pressure never gets that low in millibars.
Right.
So I think their confusion was probably between QFE and QNH.
Okay. Let's see. Instead, the crew asked for confirmation of the sea level pressure, QNH, to which the tower gave the figure of 1012 millibars. The crew did not recalculate the airfield pressure to give a QFE figure in millibars, says the inquiry, and instead set the altimeter to QNH while continuing to descend. This effectively meant that the altimeter was falsely showing the aircraft to be more than 800 meters above its actual height. So, in other words, they thought they were 800 meters higher than they actually were. They were very close to the ground. Upon reaching the cleared height of 500 meters, the aircraft would have still been indicating a height of more than 1,300 meters. The enhanced ground proximity warning system began to issue sink rate and terrain alerts, and within a few seconds ordered the crew to pull up. But the inquiry says the crew did not follow the requirements of the flight manual and instead continued with the descent.
Uh-oh.
That's a big mistake.
Oops. Yeah. Oops. What's
The
that
reason
famous
why
quote? Shut up, gringo.
It's like, okay, the enhanced ground proximity warning system is there to prevent something like this from happening.
Yep.
But you have to pay attention to it and honor it. Anyway, the crew, let's see, I already read that paragraph. It climbed away, despite sustaining damage to the leading edge of the wings, ailerons, horizontal stabilizer, and the engine inlets and fan blades. Pretty much everything on the airplane. The collision partly jammed the elevator, and the jet's left-hand winglet was torn off, says the inquiry, causing considerable difficulty for the crew as they tried to control the aircraft. Inspection of the aircraft managed to land. Let's see. Inspection of the Aerolimousine aircraft, which managed to land without further incident, found that it had suffered impact damage to several other structures and systems, including air brakes, radio altimeter antenna, and angle of attack sensor.
Ooh, these boys were lucky, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Very much so. So maybe a little bit for those who don't quite understand the differences between QFE, QNH, and the world over there, I guess, when you're dealing with various units, how this can all be thrown into a very confusing bowl of soup.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for a start, we're making a conversion from their millimeters of mercury, which is an odd kind of, for those who aren't familiar, it's the way old barometers used to work. You used to have a column of mercury suspended in a glass tube. And as the outside air pressure changed, the column of mercury would move up and down. You'd measure it against the scale, and that's how you got the pressure. And that's why in America it's inches of mercury, and in Russia it's millimeters of mercury. Millibars is the SI unit that is generally used in Europe and a lot of other places in the world. But here the main thing is, well, they've first of all got to make the correction across so that they can, whatever unit their altimeter uses, they've made the correction to that unit so they can set their altimeter correctly. But then, of course, in Russia, which is not common, most of their airfields, they land on QFE, not QNH. And in almost everywhere else in the world, civil airline pilots land on QNH. So what's the difference? QFE is your height measured above the airfield datum. QNH is your height measured above sea level. So in this case, it looks like the airfield was about 800 meters above sea level, which is why they got that 800-meter error. So their altimeter, had they descended all the way to 0, would have put them at the same height as the sea. But of course, the airfield, which is slightly higher than that, it put them up, effectively would have put them underground if they'd gone to 0. And it looks like they were flying the approach thinking they had QFE set when they actually had QNH set, or alternatively, they thought the heights on their approach plates were in QNH, not in QFE. So they got that datum, that altimeter pressure setting datum wrong, either on their altimeters or on their understanding of the plates, which is why they try to descend into the ground.
So in effect, if you're using QFE, it's almost as if your barometric altimeter is like a radio altimeter.
Oh, that's exactly right. When you land the aircraft, your pressure altimeter will read 0.
Okay.
Whereas we're always used to landing with our pressure altimeter reading the altitude of the airfield.
I'm not sure about this, and perhaps Colonel Jeff could let me know. And of course, it may have been before he flew for them, but I kind of remember back many years ago that American Airlines, when they were flying instrument approaches, would actually use a QFE scheme to set bugs and that kind of thing. Not sure. I don't think they do that anymore, but everybody else at that time that I knew of was using the QNH. And so when we land in Atlanta, the field elevation is 1,026 feet, and that's what your barometer, your altimeter will read when you are on or very close to that. When you're on the runway.
Exactly right. Now, in the Air Force, where I did all my training, we use QFE all the time. So we're always flying around. As we approached the airfield, when you came within a certain distance, you changed your altimeter from the sea level pressure of QNH to the airfield pressure datum of QFE, and you flew your approach according to that. So that when we were doing circuits, we're always just set 1,000 feet if that was the circuit height, or 1,500 feet. Whereas if you were doing your circuits on QNH, you would have to add the height of your circuit to the airport elevation and come up with a different figure. Say the airfield was 500 feet high, you were trying to fly 1,500 foot circuit. That would make your altimeter, you would need to read 2,000 feet when you were downwind. So the RAF used QFE as a matter of simplicity for its pilots, but there is always that danger that you might forget to move the altimeter from QNH to QFE. So for a while, they went to QNH. And then after a while, they decided that wasn't very safe, so they moved back again. And I have no idea what they're doing now. But the civil world, in my experience, apart from the odd place like in Russia, are almost exclusively QNH. And that's what we do the world round, really.
Yeah, I've never ever done that kind of procedure using QFE.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real difference to us except that, you've just got to remember to set it. And, when you land, you go, oh, look, my altimeter's at 0.
So your approach plates and all that kind of stuff, all the altitudes were referring to QFE based altimetry.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. Danny, have you ever flown an approach procedure or whatever using QFE and not QNH?
Never.
Yeah.
Always QNH.
Yeah. All right. Colin writes, hello, Captain Jeff, Nick, Dana, Dr. Steph. My name is Colin. I'm from the Chicagoland area, currently a first officer with a regional airline. Shall we call it Acme West Junior? Flying the CRJ fleet for the company. This is my first feedback since I began listening to your show, so I'll give a quick background on myself. I started my flying at a public university in the deep south of Illinois and obtained all my licensing, private pilot, commercial, and commercial flight instructor. Oh, so I see what he's saying. Private through commercial flight instructor with their 141 program. I began flight instructing after graduation at an airport just north of O'Hare formerly known as Pewaukee, currently known as Chicago Executive. I guess they wanted to make Chicago sound a little fancier by having an executive airport. Anyway, about 2 years of people trying to crash our planes in the name of learning and me showing them how not to, I began my career with Acme West Jr. I finished up IOE in December in the CRJ 200 and OOE, which stands for Other Operating Experience, in the 700/900 for the first week of January. I have to say that it was a big shift from the single and twin props I was flying, but I've loved every minute of it. I've been listening to your show since late 2015 when I began instructing, and have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. I made my commute to the flight school, or it made my commute to the flight school that much more enjoyable. I'm currently based at Chicago O'Hare and only have to spend 3 weeks, or only had to spend 3 weeks on reserve, 4 days on, 3 days off, before holding a line this February. They must be desperate. You know what I need to do? I need to increase the font size. It's just too small. It's hard for me to read this. Okay.
New glasses, Jeff.
Yeah, that might help too. Shut up. Let's see. They must be desperate, but I'm not complaining. Since I was hired in August of last year, I've put in about 200 to 250 hours on the CRJ and have been lucky enough to experience all the best parts of this job. Have had a diversion for weather, rejected landing, not my landing, and a Cat 2 approach to minimums and heavy fog. Loved all of it, although I'm sure after enough I'll learn to despise most of these things, but for now, I'm enamored with it all. Anyway, I'm writing this feedback for a few reasons. One is the fact that my airline recently opened ATL as a domicile back in November. So in addition to seeing more of us RJ guys clogging up your taxiways, I hope that in the future one of them will be me, and I can get a nice long overnight to meet up with you, Captain Jeff and or Dana, and have a few IPAs with you both. Secondly, I have yet to get a trip down to Georgia, so I haven't gotten to experience the joy of landing an Acme Connection CRJ 900 at the infamous Atlanta International, but I can't wait. That being said, up here in Chicago, there have been a few operational procedures I've become accustomed to, one of them being that we are kept fast on all of our approaches, and as I'm sure you're familiar with, Chicago O'Hare has 5 east-west parallel runways, and controllers will do everything in their power to keep the west flow going until pilots start to refuse landings in that direction. So my question is, does Atlanta have similar procedures? Do they prefer one landing direction over another? And as anyone who has flown into O'Hare knows, do they keep you coming in hot until the final approach fix? This was a little daunting during training, so they would keep us at a speed just over the required to get our last 2 flap settings in. So it was a fun dash to configure the second we crossed Sibley or Taft's inbound on the ILS. Although once you do it a few times, it becomes a piece of cake. Anyway, thanks for the great show. Congrats on 300, and I'll be listening for the next 300. Talons, Douglas.
Yeah, we haven't heard that for a while.
Haven't, yeah. So that was Colin, and thank you for the feedback, Colin, and glad that you've been listening to us for a while, and so cool that we've kind of kept you company in your journey, and that now you're starting to see the fruits of that by flying for this regional Acme.
Yeah, nice
West
bit of feedback.
Yeah.
I hope you guys get a chance to get together for a beer or two.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Did anybody catch the irony in that feedback, though?
The irony.
Yes, the Chicago irony.
No, tell us. How did we?
How he was talking about that Chicago needed an executive airport.
Oh yeah,
Milwaukee, and how Daly went and plowed, the waterfront airport.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There's some. That's one of the things I picked up on is because Meigs is no longer there now. All of a sudden, Chicago needs an executive airport. That was.
Do they call Meigs an executive airport?
I think so.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that. Yes, I think that someone who is familiar with and relatively comfortable with flying into O'Hare will have no problem flying into Atlanta. In fact, I think Atlanta is probably a little bit easier than O'Hare because you have fewer. All the runways in Atlanta are parallel, whereas in Chicago you can be in a situation where they're coming. They're every which way but loose. They're poking out every direction on the compass you can think of up there. But yes, they do the same thing here to keep the flow running. They will keep you at, usually about 170, 180 knots until you're at the final approach fix, if you can, just to keep the flow going. And as far as favorite flows, I don't think they push it as much as what you're saying about O'Hare here. I think that in Atlanta, if the wind starts shifting and it favors the other direction, usually the most you ever or I ever see is maybe 4 or 5 knots of tailwind before they finally go, okay, we're gonna switch it around. But that's my experience.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I with all the different major airports in this country, I have to say I think Atlanta and Captain I that I just flew with, we were talking about this actually on our approach into Atlanta just yesterday. Atlanta's probably one of the most organized and easiest airport of a big airport to operate into. You pretty not much know if you operate into Atlanta on a fairly regular basis, what you're going to expect, when you're going to expect it, and how it's going to happen. And you go into a place like Chicago or New York or Philly, and I'd even say to a certain extent Charlotte and many other different centers. And I don't think they quite operate as well or as efficiently as Atlanta does. And I don't know whether it's airspace issues or whether it's runway layouts or what causes it or whether it's center management. But it just always has seemed to me that Atlanta is always or has always been one of the smoothest run and easiest major airports to operate in and out of. So if you're somewhat comfortable operating in and out of Chicago, I think you'd find Atlanta a cakewalk, relatively speaking. Believe it or not, Chicago is one of my least favorite airports in the country to operate into because the place is just a cluster. You just can never figure out which way you're going to, as Jeff said, which runway they're going to give you, which way you're going to land, how you're going to taxi. I mean, if you land on that north runway heading, I think it's it's east. If you land east on the north complex, you have about a 25-minute taxi all the way around the airport. It's amazing. I think Zulu taxiway for Yankee. Of course, I as first officer, I kind of pay attention, but to make sure we don't get in trouble. But yeah. I don't memorize the airport charts. I'm not that familiar with them. But anyways, that north complex runway is amazing. So
yeah, as far as landing and taking off is concerned, the flying part of it is easy. But once you're on the ground at O'Hare, it's a challenge. But you get more comfortable with it over time, though. You start knowing which taxiway, what the taxiway designations are, and then you kind of have an idea of what they're probably going to, what route they're going to tell you to take. But yeah, it's definitely not as straightforward as Atlanta. Atlanta's easy.
At least they don't have Dixie.
Yeah, and that's another thing that just I don't understand. I remember when I was brand new at Acme Airlines, and of course this is not going to really be. I'm not going to be able to really translate this very well because Dixie, Delta, Acme. Okay, so here let me try it this way. The airline is very similar to the airline that I fly for, Acme. It's called Delta, and they're also a big operator in Atlanta. And supposedly the taxiway D is not called taxiway Delta in Atlanta. They call it taxiway Dixie because, now this is what they tell me, because there would be too much confusion between the taxiway designation and the call sign. And I'm thinking, but what about all those other airports that Delta operates in and to and out of that have taxiway Ds? Almost every single one of them do. And they don't seem to have any trouble, getting confused about the taxiway designation and the name of their airline. So I don't know.
Maybe it's just volume
designed to confuse all us visitors.
I think it's just. I think it's a tradition, actually.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
That's held on for years.
No one's going to change it now.
Yeah, nobody's going to change it. But
well, you are in the South, Dixie.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there you go, Dixieland.
There you go. All right. Thanks again, Colin, for the feedback. And yeah, absolutely, if you get a layover in Atlanta, I'm sure that Dana and I can meet you somewhere. That'd be fun. We talked about an earlier show about APUs, auxiliary power units, and we were wondering about, if smaller jets, or somebody was asking, do smaller jets have APUs? And John helped us out. He said in show 307, you had a multi-part question that asked, about the small planes using APUs. And he said 2 turboprops that I know have optional APU configurations, the Saab 340 and the Dornier 328. Dornier, I guess? Yeah. Could be equipped mostly allowing for air conditioning on the ground, and in the Saab's case, allowing for a higher service ceiling. Interesting. So there you go. Dana, I don't think you were with us on that day, that show, but did the Embraer have an APU?
It sure did. It was one of the few that did.
Okay.
The Saab, from what I can remember, does not have an APU.
I guess, well, he's saying that maybe that's an option. Maybe most carriers don't select that option.
Yeah, that one I don't know. But when I was with the Business Express Airlines in the early 90s, they had Saabs, and none of them had an APU. The first airplane that I know of that had Business Express that had an APU was a BA-146.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's kind of a bigger regional, I guess.
Yeah, it's a jet too.
As a jet too, yeah.
4-engine jet. So no, there was no APU in the Saabs I know of, and I don't know that would make a difference in the service ceiling.
I guess the only way I can think that would make any difference is if they're actually operating the APU, it's providing more pressure or more. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. Actually, I'm thinking about it. Why the service ceiling would be higher.
I mean, our limitations, we can operate the APU, but we cannot operate the air in flight.
But I think that there's some airplane APU configurations that does happen, that they can operate it up to the service ceiling. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, John, for clarifying, or at least giving us that little data point. Here's some feedback from, well, they're going to tell you.
Hi everyone, it's Fabian here from Germany, and I'm sitting in Dublin right now with Steve from Ireland. He was also at the Berlin meetup with Steph, and we were talking meetups and about Fairford and the Riyadh Air Show and Farnborough coming up next year. And Steve had the following idea, which I think it's quite cool for a meetup to do.
Cool. Hi guys. Haven't had much contact with you guys outside of maybe the meetups or sending in as my first feedback. So my idea was that previously you guys have had a meetup at Farnborough, which is really good. It's a really big air show. It's commercial. It's kind of cool, but it's just lacking the kind of fast jet fun and the noise and all of that really good crack. It's a bit kind of trucks and buses flying around, a lot of civil aviation. Yeah, not everybody's interested in that. I know you guys are, but hey, Riyadh would be good. What we could do is we could throw in Fairford, 13th to the 15th of July. There's a whole week, but mainly the weekend. World's largest military air show. Many of you have been there before. I know PT UK were there with Carlos last year, going around taking photographs. Didn't get to see him, but it'd be good to meet up. I'm planning on camping. Might bring over a big tent from Ireland. Carlos and Matt can bring the barbecue, and we can have a small little PT UK APG village set up for people who want to come and stay and make it probably a little weekend of it. So let us know what you think. I'll log on to the chat rooms and maybe throw it up as an idea, and Fabian might also remind people. So that's it, folks. Thanks for that. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, Steve and Fabian. And I believe that's what our plan is to actually hit both of those air shows. The Riyadh, the Royal Air, Royal Air Tattoo? Is that what that stands for? Riyadh? Royal International Air Tattoo, I think. And that's the weekend before Farnborough. And then the week of and the following weekend is the public Farnborough Air Show. And we haven't done anything, made any plans officially yet, But I think we've been talking about that. So that was a brilliant idea that we've already been talking about doing.
Is our new producer already getting our media passes organized, you know?
If she hasn't, then she's really falling down on the job. No, she has no idea that we were even considering doing that. But I'm sure that she's more than capable of doing something like that. Yeah, I mean, right, Nick? Hadn't we talked about trying to encompass both?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You were very keen on the idea, which is I think great. I don't know if I'll have get enough time off to do both, but I'll certainly be aiming for Farnborough.
Well, I bid for my primary vacation already, and I have like 3 weeks off in July, so it covers the entire Riat and Farnborough thing. So
excellent.
That's my plan. So we'll see what happens. But more information will be forthcoming. Steve and Fabian. Holden sent in this link to a website, autopilotandchill.com. I love that name. He says, hi, APG crew. Got this link in an email today from the ever funny ATC memes shop. You'll remember last week we did the funny Adis Grayson from ATC memes. So that's ATC MEMES, and I guess they have a swag shop. And Holden continues, at $27, it's a bit steep, but Jeff and Dana, I think you'll really like the message. Cheers and keep the blue side up. And so I went ahead and grabbed a screenshot of the aforementioned T-shirt, and it says, "Save the Mad Dogs." And there's a nice picture of the very distinctive T-tail of the DC-9/MD-80 series airplane. We can't say the MD-90 because the MD-90's elevators do not do this because they're powered. So they're always synced up. They're not split like the unpowered elevators on the DC-9 and the MD-80 series jets. I like the T-shirt. What do you think?
I think it's great. I mean, you really need to be in the know to understand that you need one elevator up and the other one level is a common way you guys taxi around that usually causes a lot of confusion amongst conscientious pilots behind you who are going, excuse me, or your elevator's supposed to look like that.
Should we tell them that there's something wrong with their airplane?
Because we're usually quite attuned to that. When you see other aircraft, it's common perhaps for guys to say, do you know your right engine's venting, or they got a dribble here, or
there's a panel open or something.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But but that of course is something that commonly happens to you, I gather, because of the strange way your airplane's made.
I think by now most people, but I do still remember almost 3 decades ago when I was a flight engineer taxiing out to runway 26 left in Atlanta and looking at the Mad Dog in front of us, and I'm looking going, wow, there's something wrong with that airplane. That just does not look right. And I said something to the co-pilot and the captain, and they kind of just chuckled and looked around, kind of looked at each other and chuckled and said, you don't know about the Mad Dog, huh? No, what? And then they said, yeah, the elevator's not powered. I went, yeah, right. The elevator's not powered. That's a jet airliner. That can't be. Oh yeah, that's the way the thing is built. Anyway, I would imagine a lot of people would see that T-shirt and go, "What?" That they wouldn't even recognize that as a T-tail, like a horizontal or vertical stabilizer. I think it has something to do with dogs.
Yeah. Well, it does.
Yeah, I guess it does, sort of. Moving on quickly here, Matt, who is a photographer, sent us a couple very nice. I love black and white. I know you enjoy doing black and white photography.
Oh, absolutely.
Captain
Yes,
Nick.
at times, yes.
So he sent us a couple black and whites from his Flickr account. He says, "Good evening. At the bottom, I've linked to a couple of pictures in which I took 17 years apart. The 2 pictures are the same plane, November 345 November Whiskey, at the same airport, Minneapolis-St. Paul, and on the same runway, 30 left." He said it may have been 29 left when the first picture was taken, but with different liveries, Northwest Airlines and Delta. I took the Northwest picture when I was in high school for my graphic arts class. I shot it on black and white film, which I developed myself. I recently discovered it among my memorabilia boxes in the garage. This is the only plane in the series of photos I shot which had a clear enough registration number to read and which was still active. When I saw that it was still active, I created an alert for myself in FlightAware to alert me whenever it was coming into MSP. This morning, I got an alert, which happened to fall on my day off, so I got up at 6 a.m. to go to the airport in time to catch its arrival. It just so happened that the plane came in on the same runway which I took the original picture, so I was able to get nearly the same picture. Not only do I think the difference in the plane is interesting, but the changes in the background, and particularly the growth of the 2 pine trees, is fun to see. I thought you guys would enjoy the before and after comparison. And yeah, it's very cool. Same airplane, different liveries, and things have changed a little bit in the background. As you said, the trees have grown a little bit bigger.
Yeah, 17 years apart. I mean, we treat the 320 as, relatively modern technology. But of course, that one's been going for 17 years. I've been flying them for 24 years, and they were going well before that. It's actually becoming quite old technology,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what happens in life, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Just
nothing stands still.
Wow. I know. Crazy. Joe writes, "Hi, Captain Jeff and AVG crew. I've caught the syndrome. And sadly, I'm sure it's terminal. Love your show. Can't wait for the next episode. I also have to say, Captain Nick's Plain Tales have to be my favorite segment of the show." And Joe, a lot of people share that same sentiment for good reason.
You guys are nice. Thanks.
I've worked multiple jobs in the aviation world, and presently I'm only 50 hours away from my commercial pilot certificate. Pushing my way through my training. I'll borrow your line. I teach at Acme College as a pilot and air traffic controller tutor. The work is rewarding, but nothing beats flying. Interestingly, there is some precedent to the Pegasus accident. He's referring to the Pegasus 737 that kind of veered off the runway somewhere in Turkey. There was a crash of a Fokker 100 in South America.
Hey, family show.
Yeah, let's try that again. Where is that?
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
There was a crash of a Fokker 100 in South America operated by TAM Airlines. They had a deployment of a thrust reverser on takeoff, and the first officer kept unwittingly overriding the auto throttle's retarding of the engine with the failed system. If I had to put money on it, I'd say that there could be something similar happening with this event. But the manufacturers say there is less than a 1 in a billion chance of this kind of event. Do you train for a similar situation at Acme? Keep the shiny side up, and may you have fair skies and tailwinds, Joe. No, I don't think I've ever seen or trained for an event like either an inadvertent thrust reverser deployment or this kind of scenario that we're talking about here with the Pegasus 737. Dana, do you recall ever having that kind of training?
No, I don't. No, I have not. But actually, I used to discuss that when I was an instructor at Acme as a ground school instructor.
Mm-hmm.
How easy it is because the interlock on the 88, if you play with those thrust reverses, there is a possibility in flight that the interlock could possibly deploy a thrust reverser in flight.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to talk about it. We never trained for it, but I get nervous when people start playing with those thrust reversers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you have to know that if you it may be such a shock situation that you just can't use your brain enough to see what's happening. But if you know or sense that there's a thrust reverser that's deployed in flight, probably the best thing to do, I mean, if you can't stow it, which probably you couldn't because I'm sure you wouldn't have activated the thrust reverse lever in flight. So it's kind of it's deploying on its own. The quickest thing to do, I guess, would just immediately shut down that engine. and that's the only way that you're going to have a chance to recover from it. We talked about an incident, I don't know, it was last year or a year before, a Learjet taken off from South Florida airport had a thrust reverser deploy, and they either couldn't grasp what was happening to them, or they didn't act quickly enough to shut down the offending engine, and they ended up crashing.
Now, I think in our QRH there is a procedure in there for an inadvertent thrust reverser deploy.
But I'm thinking you're going to have your hands full. It's going to be difficult to get to that QRH and run that procedure.
There is, and since we were talking about that, it reminded me on the Brasilia. It was a known problem, so we did train for that on the Brasilia, but that was a turbo prop.
Mm-hmm.
When we had a failed governor, basically prop governor, that would cause it to go into reverse. So we did train for that back in the Brasilia days, but I've never done it on a jet airplane.
Nick, do you guys train for that at all?
Yeah, I've had plenty of thrust reverse cautions. I don't remember being given one that fully deployed, but certainly I've had thrust reverse. I mean, it's very simple action. Normally, you just shut the engine down because you don't take the risk of that engine providing power. If the thrust reverser were to deploy, it could just turn the airplane on its back. So, if you're in any doubt, and of course, with 4 engines, that's a relatively safe thing to do. Of course, with 2, that's requires a little bit more thought. But generally speaking, yes, you still more or less do the same thing. Just grab the engine master and kill that engine. I don't think we actually. I'm trying to think if I've actually trained for flying around with a thrust reverser. I might actually have done it once, but that's in an awful lot of simulators over the years I've been doing this.
Yeah, if I think about it ever, because sometimes you'll end a simulator session and they'll say, hey, we have a little extra time if you guys want to try something. And if I think about it, it'd be kind of interesting to see at least, how the simulator reacts. It doesn't necessarily mean that the airplane's going to act exactly the same way, but it would be interesting to see what it might feel like to have an inadvertent thrust reverser deployment like that. All right. Well, a couple extra things here I was being optimistic, and I think we're getting close to that time of the show where we end it and say, the things that we always say at the end of our show. We're going to keep the couple of pieces of feedback in our folder and move it to the next show. Ivor sent in some chemtrail conspiracy theorist news. Neelis asks a question about color blindness, which might be nice to have the doctor with us when we answer that one. So we'll move that to the next show. And another piece of a very small piece of audio from the Flying Kiwi. We'll play that one on the next show, as well as maybe your feedback. If you want to send us some of that, send it to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com, or you can use the fill out the feedback, contact us form on the website. If you happen to have downloaded our app, which you should, iOS and Android, the Airline Pilot Guy app, and the respective stores, and it's free, no advertising, and it has a way for you to send in feedback, as well as listen to the shows, both the video and audio, and much more. The website has a lot of stuff there as well to learn about the crew and the community and how to join the coffee fund, merchandise, and a lot more stuff. So check that out if you don't mind.
We like stuff.
We do like stuff. Stuff.
Lots of stuff.
And social media. Captain Nick, maybe you can help us with that.
We certainly can. You can find us on Twitter. Just look for the handle @APG Crew. And on Facebook, you'll find us at the standard Facebook address and search for Airline Pilot Guy.
All right. And we also have another kind of quasi-social media thing, a Slack group. And we have our Slack group manager and creator, to tell us how you can join us there.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan meetups and events. To get into the Slack team, please send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @hi11e1, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel @hi11e1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you, Hillel, for informing us about that. And again, just a reminder, it's HI11E1, not L's, because Hillel doesn't like L, apparently.
That's an hell of a thing to say.
It is an hell of a thing to say, isn't it? All right. And with that, we wish you a great week and great weekend. We'll be back again next week for the next episode, 310. And until then, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Talons, Douglas.
We'll see you soon.
Talons, Douglas. I love that.
Well, we haven't had it for a while.
I know.
It was kind of slipped into...
Who was the one that came up with that? Was that Flying Kiwi that came up with Talons,
I
Douglas?
don't know, but it was what someone saw, wasn't it, on the closed captions?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe, was it Glenn? That
I don't remember who
chat room,
first
help us
told
out.
us about it.
Help us out. Barbara. Hello, Barbara Parrish. How long has she been in there?
She's just been talking about underpants, so don't worry too much.
Yeah. She has a thing about underpants.
The underpants on my wall behind
and
my
so does
shoulder.
Dana, because he has the underpants hanging up on his wall.
Well,
Yeah, in fact,
those
he
are the
has
ones Barbara
Barbara's
gave me.
underpants.
They're Barbara's.
Barbara's
Oh, is it
underpants
really?
on his wall.
No, Barbara's smaller than that. She doesn't
Yeah,
have...
but actually, those are the ones that she gave me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for 300.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah, beautiful.
Okay.
I probably can't see both of them. Here, let me do that. There you go.
Oh,
number 2 side. Yeah, well, that's very good.
Now you can see it all. And then the other
Number
side.
ones, number 2s. Do
On the
you
other
do you
side, I
tell your
have-
kids that in the States, or do you have some
Yes.
other?
Number
Okay.
1, number 2. Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
You know, Dana we think of as Captain Underpants.
Yeah.
Very
Apparently, that's a good movie. I have not
Captain
seen
of the
it.
Underworld.
Yeah, I need to see them. I'm a great fan of Pixar's and Disney's movies. I think they're hilarious. So,
Yeah.
if
Have you
ever
seen
I'm
Captain Underpants?
No, not yet. No, I'm just waiting for the chance.
Apparently, it's on Netflix. At least over here, I think it's on Netflix. So I might have to check.
Yeah,
it out.
I've got a Fire Stick. Our Netflix is a slightly different choice to yours, but the next
Mm-hmm.
trip I get over there, I'm going to take that Fire Stick with me. And when I'm in America, I can get American Netflix. So that would be a perfect thing to do.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else from the chat room before we shut this live feed down? Thanks for
been a good show this week. Actually, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I know why you've enjoed it.
It's in the middle of the. It's not.
It's not so
midnight.
late, and you're not having to drink so much beer to stay awake.
Well, that's probably true, Dana. I do feel I've got a brain today, despite the fact that I landed this morning and have slept most of the day away. I'm actually starting to wake up now, so this is kind of good.
Time to leave.
Wow. Yeah, no,
Is this going to throw off your sleep cycle?
Probably.
Yeah.
But no, it's no big deal. I will probably sleep okay tonight, and I'll probably have a bit of a sore head tomorrow. It's just one of those things I suffer from after the day after a trip when I've had all my sleep cycles completely screwed up.
So when do you have anything scheduled for in the upcoming week or two, or are you just?
I'm just looking right now. Let's go to the little button that says today. Well, I was due to be going to Newark on Saturday, which would have given me only one day off, but because I'm entitled to 2 days off, they've cancelled that. I go on standby on Sunday, but I don't think they're going to use me. I might have a positioning flight to do on Monday. But basically, the rest of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm free. So if it's the normal time of the week next week, that's good for me.
Okay. How's your Thursday look, Dana?
I'm looking right now as we speak. That might be.
I'm going to put the one caveat that Friday I have to go to Gatwick and do a day of ground training.
Okay.
And that's an early start, and like 8:30. And
so you
starting
couldn't stay up
Gatwick,
late
so
for Thursday.
I'd rather not, if that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
falling asleep in front on the technical lectures is just a little embarrassing, I find.
How about Wednesday for you, Dana?
Wednesday, I am. I'm in Fort Walton Beach all day. I've got a night schedule next week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Hmm.
So during the daytime, I'd be fine.
Okay.
But at night, I'm no bueno.
Yeah. So earlier in the day on Wednesday, then.
Yeah, I duty in at 3:55, so noon, 1 o'clock would work fine.
Yeah.
But that's also that would be that's Central Time, so that's a little bit later for you.
Yeah.
There'll be 1, 2 o'clock.
Okay, and then Steph, we'll just have to see what if that works for her. I'll be home on Wednesday, so that'll work for me.
I'm off on Monday.
I go back out on Thursday. I'll be in Boston on Thursday. Kansas City is definitely out for me because that's the meetup on Friday night in Kansas City. But let's see, Saturday would be... Yeah, I could do it Saturday too. I get in early in the morning Saturday, so we could do it anytime Saturday.
Yep, Saturday or Sunday, Saturday morning or Sunday.
Yeah.
Saturday the 10th, we're talking?
Yes.
Actually, I was due to be in the simulator, but they've taken that away from me to give to someone who is much more deserving.
Oh, good.
So I'm on standby, but it's a late standby, and it's a standby for the simulator, I think. So the only thing they can do is put me into Sandbag Sim or something, and I don't think they will because they've already taken the simulator away from me. So
Yeah.
I'm almost certainly going to be free, and I think it's a 4-hour standby anyway. So
Okay. Well, at least
I
we
could
have some
probably-
idea here. Perhaps Wednesday or Tuesday or Saturday or something like that.
Yeah, the only day I'm not around available late is actually there is the Thursday and that's only I can do it, but I just don't.
Yeah, I understand. You'd rather not. Yeah.
No,
Get some
I
sleep.
don't mind driving home from training on Friday and staying up late. That's no problem at all.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I'm
we'll just play it
available
by ear.
Friday. I'm off.
Okay.
And
we'll
I
see what
and I-
stuff.
And I'm in the middle of writing about the Happy Bottom Riding Club.
Excuse me?
The Happy
Happy Bottom
Riding
See
Club.
my underwear up there?
That's it. That's the
Number
Happy
2.
Bottom.
A happy
Do you-
bottom is a happy bottom.
The
Do you
Happy
need-
Bottom Riding Club. Now, a few people will know about the Happy Bottom.
What is
Riding Club. Okay. Have you read The Right Stuff or seen the movie?
You know what? I have never seen that movie.
Jeff.
I know.
What an appalling admission. Oh, my God. Well,
Maybe I should watch it tonight, huh?
Well, that would be great. I think you should. And if you see Chuck Yeager and all the test pilots out of Edwards having whiskey in a really scruffy looking bar, that'll be the Happy Bottom Riding Club.
Oh.
So this is
Is
more
it
about
writing or riding?
riding, R-I-D.
Right.
Oh, I see. I thought you were
Writing.
talking about writing.
Sorry,
I
no,
thought,
that's my mumbling.
No, that's your British accent.
Okay.
See, we speak proper English now.
So whether it's writing or writing, they both sound like riding in American English, but to you, they both sound like writing.
Yeah, I have a T in writing. If I
Yes.
say writing, it's going to say ting at the end of it.
Writing.
Yes. Are you going to write that?
We have a wonderful economy of words.
You just don't bother with half the syllables. Yeah,
Exactly. Why waste?
So so that's Pancho Barnes is the next subject of my. So if you want to see that movie, you'll get an idea of what Pancho Barnes. But the fact is that she's given a glancing blow in that movie, so you don't see much about it. And it's all about the test pilots. But in fact, in her own right, she was a brilliant aviatrix. So or aviatrix. So it's really good stuff. I'm enjoying researching and writing that.
Oh, nice. Is that for a plane tail?
Yeah, next one.
Oh, nice. Okay, look forward to that. So I definitely have my homework.
Yes.
Yes.
And anyone else who doesn't know about the Happy Bottom Riding Club, and anybody with the slightest interest in aviation who hasn't seen The Right Stuff, Get it and watch it immediately.
Don't be like me. Don't be a loser like me. Hey, I'm finally.
Hey, I haven't some of that, Mark. Come on, I haven't seen.
Hey, talking of loser cruiser, how's that new car of yours?
I was just gonna say, I finally lost my loser cruiser and got rid of that sucker. And she was also nicknamed Bessie. I did not name her; my wife did. But Bessie is gone, off to better pastures. My new steed is the Honda Accord Sport, which is just a lot of fun to drive. So
excellent,
and it's so nice to get into it and just have that new car smell and that leather. It's not fully leather seating, but it's like partially leather seating, and so just nice to smell that.
What's even a nicer thing is you get into the car, you put the key in, and it actually starts.
Yeah,
you don't have to wonder if it's going to.
I just have to use. I just make sure my fob is in my pocket and just push the button, and it starts up every ding dang time, which is amazing.
It's a whole new feeling.
And I can park it in the rain and know that if I go back out to it, it'll actually start.
I'm very glad to hear it.
Fabian, apparently not often enough. I don't think you were with us at the beginning of the show because Mike Cochran had sent us some Christmas gifts, and he sent it to our P.O. box, and I guess I didn't check it often enough, and they sent it back to him, so he had to send it to my house. But I need to make a habit of checking that P.O. box more often. So let's see. Yeah. Robert thinks that you're going to have to relieve me of my command, Nick.
No, I think you'll have probably achieved the aim by then.
Yeah, I hope so. All right. Well, thanks everyone again for hanging with us today.
Brilliant.
And look at that. It's not even 5 o'clock here.
Good chat room tonight. Actually, there was some good stuff. Nice people. Some new people in there as well.
Yeah.
Are you taking some new medication, Nick?
How do you mean?
Everything seems to be excellent tonight.
I'm just on
you
a
taking
high.
happy meds?
You see me normally at like 2 a.m. when I'm absolutely falling asleep here. And this is actually a period of the day when I'm normally reasonably awake.
It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, except for it's old pilot and old curmudgeon.
Exactly right. Yeah.
We usually see the old curmudgeon.
You do. But
I actually quite like doing it better in the middle of the day than into the evening.
Yeah, it's just that we have these jobs and stuff.
Yeah, that's the jobs getting in the way. And poor Steph, she's always the one that has the problem because she has to go and stick pins in people.
Let me check
I
that.
imagine maybe next Saturday might work better for her.
It might, although she sometimes schedules flights and skydiving and
you
other
have to
things.
catch her. You have to get her very early in her diary to get her on a weekend.
Yeah,
that's true.
Action girl is at it again.
And if the weather's nice here, I'll probably be out on my motorcycle or boat or car or
something.
You won't find me at an airport though.
Boat, motorcycle.
Lane, yes. In the schedules that I post on Where's Captain Jeff or Where's Jeff, the asterisk means deadhead. Either that or right before the flight number, sometimes it says it has a D there, but the way that this particular method works, I guess they put an asterisk there to indicate a deadhead. So
I thought for a second you said asterisks.
Asterisk.
So I thought, what kind of tricks you play with your ass? I don't know.
I don't well, rather not go into that. It's a family show.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
James said, "We need. Where is Dana?" I'm right here, James.
Yep.
Let me tell you, it's hard enough for me to keep my own schedule updated, and then having everybody else do theirs would be a nightmare. But maybe that's a job for Liz. She can snap, like crack the whip and get on to these other people, do that kind of stuff.
I mean, I usually check in
about
in Swarm. I check in Swarm. Are you on Swarm, Dana?
Who?
Swarm
app.
An app on your phone where you check in where you are, and then people know where you are. So
I do have Swarm.
Well, there you go. Just check in on it occasionally, and then
the thing that's nice about the I use a Google map, and I have a special calendar that I call, where's Captain Jeff, or where's Jeff, or whatever. Where's Captain Jeff? And so when I'm updating my Google Calendar, I always update the calendar that I see and the calendar that's public. And what I do is I take out all the information about the layover hotels and that kind of thing on the public calendar, because I think there was something said on our company communications that we shouldn't publish the location of our hotels and other information like that. That's like too much information. So I don't do that anymore.
All right. Jeff?
What?
When I click audio hijack to bring it back on the screen, I can't get the little record button. Where's the little record button gone?
I don't know.
All I've just got is a list of recordings.
Oh, so you need to go to
actions. Actions, is that it? No.
So go to
see at the top of the screen, it says recordings in the middle, and then the left side says sessions.
Yeah.
Click on sessions. Go to input device.
No, that just shows me what. I don't know. Anyway, I can't see that. Normally at the bottom there's a recording button when I'm recording, but
right. So click on sessions.
Yeah, it's not there. All I got is the two sessions. I've got the two sets of icons that.
Right. So click on the icon. Double click on that.
Oh yeah, got it. Well,
and then you'll see the recording.
Good job. Good job. I'm just going to stop recording now.
I actually did something technically proficient.
Yay! That's awesome.
Hey.
Oh, we got to mark the date down on the calendar.
We have it recorded too, so we have evidence.
It happened. Wow.
It did happen.
Actually, speaking of that, I can stop recording now.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's see if
maybe I'm finally catching up after 40 or 50. Was it 60 episodes now? I think.
Awesome.
That many already. Wow.
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 You been there? You been with us that long?
240. I think it started around 240 something.
Wow. Wait.
Wow. Wow.
Let's see. I'm going to look at the file drop to see if Steph put her. No, I don't see anything in there yet. She'll probably do it after she gets back from her meeting.
Actually, I'm pretty sure you're not even going to need mine because I'm plugged directly in and I didn't have any bandwidth problems.
Yeah, there was. I don't know if the people in the chat room could hear it, but on my end, there was like a little. I don't think it was from you, Dana, or it may have been from everybody, but like tiny little, almost like a record, like a nick in a record occasionally.
Me?
Not you, Nick.
Oh, okay.
But like a little pop, like little pops that are really hard to hear, but I can hear them, and I think it's usually associated with like USB stuff. But I think it was on my end, not your all's end. So I may end up having to actually use the recordings on this one.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm just going to stick mine in Evernote right now.
This is funny.
What?
Nothing. It's playing, and I don't have the ability to stop it.
Huh.
Yes. I hear it in the background.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's playing. It's
iTunes
crazy.
Sometimes that's what usually plays it, and then you've got to find iTunes and turn it on. Just really annoying.
Where is iTunes?
I usually
look at your dock in the bottom and see if you see the iTunes.
Oh, yeah, I see it. I got it.
That's the standard player.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah, Dan's ready.
I'm ready. All the iTunes not to.
I'm ready, willing, and able. Excellent.
All right, well, I'm going to stop the broadcast. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week.
It's just tiny Nick on Jeff's end. Thank you, Neil.
That just sounds wrong.
Yeah, that does.
Yeah.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.